and it's day one and you walking in there on the first day, man, you in there, man. But you feel something. It's right in here, man. And it's screaming, and it's yelling, and it's saying, release me. And it's saying, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt, and I'll see you in the winner's circle celebrating your victory. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! You got this! You got this! You got this! Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 251 of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in here this morning, man. We got Constance Sherrod in the building from Pearl, Mississippi. We got Mona Obamolak down in Orlando, Florida. Michael Benton, Cincinnati, Ohio. Takesha High is in Virginia. Rodney Richardson's in Hampton, Virginia. Robin Snowden, I should say the Reverend Robin Snowden. And yes, I checked out that sermon. Good stuff. Good stuff. Harambe, she's out in Fresno, California. Ronald Pugh, Cedar Hill, Texas. Nadira Coley is in Newark, New Jersey. Grace Castaneda, Kyle, Texas. Billy Townsend, he said from, and he did another one. So Billy Townsend's from New Bern, North Carolina. Justin McMillan, where we at? He said in the house, ready to kick the tires and light the fires. Bam. We got Marsha Poe in San Diego. AP Patrick Lawrence. He said in Connecticut, he said, happy Black History Month, 365 for life. That's me. Stacy Joy, Los Angeles, California. Beautiful morning. That's a good thing, Stacy. Lysandra Brackens is in North Carolina. Tashika Truesdale, Atlanta, GA. Chancellor Davis, Salt Lake City, Utah. Dr. Sheikah Houston is in South Carolina. And by the way, speaking of Dr. Houston, the Fantastic Four, Sean Hurt, starts us off at 10 o'clock. Facebook Live, other platforms, but I'll just stick to one not to confuse folks. Facebook Live at 10 Eastern, followed by Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor with Create and Educate at 10:30. Yours truly at 10:55. And then Sunday night, 7 o'clock, Josh Tovar, Dr. Madi Moreno in the PDP podcast. That's the Fantastic Four. 4 platforms that you really don't want to miss, right? Every weekend. We got Shaquila Aubrey is in the building. Dr. Makiva Jeter, Calumet City, Illinois. Jacqueline Harriet up in Nova Scotia, Canada. Vanessa, as they want to call the 51st state, right? Don't get me started. Vanessa Zeskin, Connecticut. Where we at? Principal Otis Kitchen II. Good morning to you down in Tampa, Florida. Solomon Bazue in Georgia. LaKenya Robin, Jersey in the building. Shalita Hines, she said good morning, all from Newark, New Jersey. David Bell, Benton Harbor, Michigan. Where we at? Principal Tammy Taylor, Dr. Principal Tammy Taylor, South Carolina, the other half of Create and Educate. Melissa Jones Chunu. Man, that Oklahoma weather was no joke, Melissa. I'll talk about that in a minute. Tony McClenny, Battle Creek, Michigan. I'm getting ready to wind it down, y'all. It's 11. MPA Jaguars, Josh Tovar is in the building. Sean Hurt, Detroit, Michigan is in the building. Josh is down in Garland, Texas. The queen of the castle, Kimberly Broughton Kafele, is in the building. Shaquila Aubrey, Cedar Hill, Texas. And where we at? I'm getting ready to shut it down, y'all. We got a lot to do, man. Let me stop it with Dr. Rella Hicks. Hey, Dr. Hicks, you know I'm gonna be down in Augusta at Pine Hill. Oh, I see you already. You ahead of me, man. See you at Pine Hill. Yeah, I see you at Pine Hill on Tuesday, right? So good stuff. Let me say to everybody formally, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 251. Can you believe that? 251 consecutively? I haven't taken a break of the AP and New Principals Academy. Man, let me say something before I even take that further. 251 consecutively, man. Who does that? Well, when you committed to something, you do it, right? I'm just committed to this. I'm committed to this platform, right? So I make sure that we get this on. Sometime I'm doing an important keynote that they can't adjust my schedule so that I can do it before or after. So we'll record in advance. I think I did that once or twice, but other than that, I'm here, right? But anyway, hey y'all, I'm on fire this morning. I'm on fire every morning. I'm on fire when I come onto this platform, AP and New Principals Academy every Saturday. It doesn't mean that I don't have things that I'm grappling with, things I'm challenged by. It doesn't mean that. But when I think about where I want to be versus where I am, I'm just going to claim. Hear me, somebody. I'm just going to claim where it is I want to be. And then I'm going to strive and work toward getting to that spot. So I'm on fire, but I'm going to tell you, today's America, I'm probably never going to be quite where I used to be until these 4 years are up, right? Because it's too many things that are happening that are directly impacting the work that I'm passionate about. So I'm not going to run from that. I'm not going to hide from it. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm not going to be politically correct so that I don't lose clients. No, I'm going to let you know. I'm not happy, and I won't be happy during these 4 years as long as there's an attack on the history that I'm a descendant of, an attack on the diversity, equity, inclusion that I address and fight for every day of my life. Right now, I can't be happy with that. But I got historical knowledge. So I understand that I'm a product of a legacy. So therefore, struggle has always been the reality of Black people. So now we in a new struggle. So I'm not getting ready to collapse like a folding chair. I'm just getting ready to step up my fighting game, my fighting spirit, right? Enough said. That sounds like I'm in a commentary, man. We ain't nowhere near that. So let me go. Hey, y'all, continue. You know, we don't hear about the fires in Southern California anymore, right? But you know, I'm gonna say it every week because them folks are homeless, right? Continued thoughts and prayers to all the fam out there, all the people, all the fam of this academy who were impacted by the fires, the wildfires in Southern California. I'm always gonna say that for a while, right? So I want all, you know, if we got fam out there that was impacted, which I already know we do, I just want them to know that we continue to think about them. My shout out, this is a weird shout out to Oklahoma City, right? Just OKC. They had predicted ice storms, and you know, down in the South, they can't handle nothing like that. You know, up here, we got this, right? But down there, so I went on and took a chance and went anyway. Right. The principal called me. School's probably going to be closed. Man, I went down there anyway. It wasn't only closed. It was closed for 2 days. And I'm in a hotel room. But the beauty was I bought basketball tickets to see the OKC Thunder and sat in the fourth row. A ticket in the fourth row for $128 versus when you go to Madison Square Garden and pay about $2,000, right, for the same seat. Right. So that was a blessing just to be there and seeing my man SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, up close and in person, lighting them boys up, man. So I had a good time, despite the fact I did no work in OKC, but we rescheduled. We be back. So if there's anybody from Capitol Hill High School out there, we be back in we get April, because my calendar is like booked solid for the rest of February and March, but we'll be there in April. Let's go. Welcome to the first timers. But if this is, in fact, your first time, do know you have missed 250 sessions. The beauty is you can go to YouTube and you can watch them, right? Go to AP New Principals Academy YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Again, hit the subscribe button one more time, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification so that you are alerted every time I go live on that particular channel, right? So I hope to see you as a regular, not just today, right? If this is your first time. Hey, speaking of leadership, my School Leadership Institute, every year we do this annually, 2 days in a different city. This year we'll be in Raleigh, North Carolina. So join me in Raleigh, July 15 and 16. It's just me. It's not a conference with a bunch of speakers. It's just me. We've been doing this for, I don't know, 10 years maybe, and different city. Join me in Raleigh, July 15 and 16. All day long, we talking instructional leadership. All day long, we are talking instructional leadership. And when you register, you get a free copy of my new joint. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? And if you're one of the first 50 to register, then you get this book along with it, the Principal 50, right? You can't go wrong with that. You get 2 days of instructional leadership, 2 books. So make sure you register. How do you register? Go to principalkafele.com, scroll down to where it says the School Leadership Institute. Click the link and register there. And I will see you in Raleigh, North Carolina for 2 days in July 15 and July 16. Speaking of that new book, and I again, I got to thank y'all. It's doing so well. There it is. We got a few thousand out there. So those of you that don't have a copy, as I always say, the most important book that I've ever written. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? We're talking about instructional leadership. And just for clarity, I'm not asking the question, what is my value to the teachers I supervise? I'm asking, what is my value instructionally? What is the correlation between your presence in the building and the greatness of your teachers pedagogically? That's what's being asked. Is there a correlation between your presence in your building and the proficiency pedagogically of the teachers? Not all the teachers in the building, the ones that report to you. That's the question. Well, in this book, that's what we talk about. Go to Amazon, just go to your other device, go right now. Or just if you're on Chrome, go to another tab, go to Amazon, get your copy now, right? Or go to ascd.org. And then don't forget, this, I ain't no shame in my game. Give me them 5 stars, baby, right? And leave a comment. Now, Kafele, why are you so bold with that? Because ain't nobody else gonna do that for me. We live in an algorithm-driven world, right? I need them 5 stars. Right. I need this book to sell. I need every principal and AP and aspiring leader and superintendent and assistant superintendent who supervises the principals. I need them to have this, baby. But if the book's sitting there with no stars, people look at it, oh man, ain't nobody reading that. Right. Now we know we stay in the top 10 on Amazon administration all week. But I need more than 14 people to pay me 5 stars, because that's where it's at right now. So make sure you take care of it. It ain't for me, man. I'm not the publisher. But news flash: authors don't make money unless your name is like Oprah, right? Them big time names. Us regular people, we don't make money on our books. The publisher makes the money. We get gas money, right? So I don't want y'all thinking, man, Kafele trying to make money. No, I ain't making no money on no book. I had to be self-published to make money on a book, right? Which I used to be. My publisher makes all the money. I look at my statement and I'm like, oh, man, they did well. Then I look at me, man, I ain't make nothing, man. I got enough to get a full tank of gas. That's how it works. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much, right? That's how it works. Hey, y'all, let me get to this monologue real quick. I'm gonna keep it short, man. No sermons today, right? We are in Black History Month. Let me get rid of my book here. And if you've been on any of my social media platforms, any of them, I've been posting book covers all month, but not of just any of my books, only my classics, the ones that kind of go way back, the ones that are like heavy duty, right? Those are the ones I've been posting. If you haven't been seeing them, just go to my Facebook page at Principal Kafele and just scroll, or LinkedIn or Twitter, or X, I should say, or even Blue Sky and Instagram, right? And just scroll. Instagram, they're right there in your face though, right? And just take a look and see those classics and ask yourself, have I read these? And if not, I'm going to make a strong pitch that you do read them. But for my commentary today, and I'm going to be quick with this, I was thinking about, because I had a different commentary plan today, and I switched it last night. And I said, a lot of people, they'll ask me, like, because I meet a lot of people that know nothing about the history of Black people in America, right? So a lot of times I'll say American history, but the part that affects Black people, right? As opposed to saying Black history, because Black history is U.S. history, American history in terms of America. But they won't know where Black people fit into that, right? Except for slavery, right? So, but even that they won't know much about. They'll know slavery existed, but I don't know the particulars about it and how Black people are impacted by slavery in 2025, right? So people ask me, like, what do I read? So you know how those of you who are basketball fans, they got this thing called the Mount Rushmore. And in the Mount Rushmore conversation is a conversation about your best 4 basketball players that ever played, right? So all just ongoing debates. They're real fun. People that don't understand basketball, they'll say, why do y'all be debating this stuff, right? But sports fans, that's just what we do, right? So I have a Mount Rushmore of books. Right, it's not steady. It switches from time to time. So this is, but a Mount Rushmore plus 1 because it's 5, right? So my starting 5 of when someone comes to me and says, "What do I read?" This is not my Mount Rushmore of my best books. This is my Mount Rushmore of this is where you need to start, right? So I want to make that very clear. My Mount Rushmore plus 1. So let's just call it my starting 5 of this is where you need to start. You have no knowledge of history of Black people. You don't know what book to start with. You might start with something that's too powerful, too overwhelming. You can't even digest it because you don't have enough background. You don't have a foundation. So this is what I've had for many years, right? Like decades. And I want to share these with you right quick, and then I'm gonna bring my guest up. Number 1, I'm gonna put the title on the screen, Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. Then I'm gonna put the book up here. This is anybody that asks me, where do I start with understanding the history of Black people in America? This is my starting point. Always, Before the Mayflower, A History of Black America. This is my starting point. Don't jump into something else. This is it. So if you want to have the narrative and understand who were Black people, particularly in West Africa before enslavement, then from there the Middle Passage all the way up to about the 1970s, right, when this book was written at the time. So Before the Mayflower, number 1. If you haven't read this, or if you read it, someone might be saying, I read that back in college. All right, you pass undergrad school now. Read it again, and you're going to get a whole different meaning of it. Because guess what? See the little bookmark sitting right here? I'm actually reading it again, right? This is a book I bought in 1984, and this is my 5th time reading it, right? I'm presently reading this book. If someone said to me, what you reading right now, Kafele? Before the Mayflower, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, I call this its companion. Let me put that on the screen. From Slavery to Freedom, A History of, as was said when he wrote the book, Negro Americans, by the great John Hope Franklin, just like I would say for Lerone Bennett Jr. This is the companion, I say, to Lerone Bennett Jr.'s Before the Mayflower. So if you haven't read this, that's your second one. Now, these are thick books, but that's okay. Right? They should have given it to you when you were either in middle school, high school, undergrad school, graduate school. A lot of y'all went through all these programs and you weren't exposed to this kind of information, but yet you went to school with Black children, right? So make sure that's my number 2. My number 3, I said, okay, they have a sense of now African American history. Those 2 books are not going to give you the totality. They're going to give you a solid foundation. But then I said, okay, they got a good foundation. But now the question is, but who were Black people before enslavement? So this is such a basic, easy read, but a fabulous book, Introduction to African Civilizations by John G. Jackson. So that's my number 3. Because I don't want folks to just study Black folks in America and not understand the African roots, right? And so Introduction to African Civilizations is critical. I've read this about 3 times, I think, over the years, right? So get your hands on that. None of these covers will look like what I'm showing you because these are old books. but the books are still around. But then this is one I didn't usually post the cover for years, and I decided this is the first year I've posted the cover because I knew there would be folks who perceived that the title as controversial. But this year I said, but it's real. I'm not hiding from this no more. So let me put it up here for you. It's called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by the great Walter Rodney. Now, so in other words, let's say that you're looking at contemporary Africa and you compare it to the other continents and you say, why is there's so much starvation and political turmoil, etc., on the continent of Africa, right? And I say, well, read this and you'll understand. Because when you talk about enslavement, right? So let's say like enslavement in America ends, some people like to say 1863. I tend to say 1865 after the Civil War, right? And then Juneteenth is there, but that's a whole other discussion with the 13th Amendment, but I'm not going to get into that right now. We'll do that another day. But in 1885, 20 years later, there was a conference of European countries, right? And you know how, man, I'm trying not to be political here, but I gotta say this. You know how you're hearing in the news, like I want to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I want to take over Iceland, Greenland. Let's make Canada the 51st state. Well, this is what happened in Africa, where the Western European countries came together and said, let's carve up this entire continent. The French said, I'll take this, right? The British said, I'll take this. Germans said, I'll take this. Dutch said, I'll take this. So next thing, and next thing you know, the whole thing was carved up, right? It was partitioned, and it became known as colonial Africa. So imagine a continent that's being exploited to the extent that it was being exploited. And now in 2025, you expecting it to operate like the US. No, it's still suffering from that colonization that lasted from 1885 until Ghana's independence, which was the first to get independence in 1957 under Kwame Nkrumah, and in Guinea in 1958 under Sekou Touré, right? And it goes on. So I'm saying that to say, you got to read this to understand it, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. And then lastly, my number 5, this is my go-to. Many of you know this, the miseducation of the Negro. Because now we talk about, well, why are we so miseducated? why don't we know what I just talked about? Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black History Month, known as Negro History Week at the time, he breaks it down in this little book, right? The miseducation of the Negro. That's my commentary, y'all. And I should have put it on the screen for you. There it is. That is my commentary for the day. I hope that you found that to be beneficial to you. Other than that, so let me cap it this way, fam. And I got 5 more I'm gonna show you next week in a different context, a different genre. But let me cap it by saying this to you, fam. You got to read. Let me say it again. You got to read. Those of you out there who are teaching or leading, I should say, Black children. We're in Black History Month, by the way. Those of you out there who are teaching, leading, counseling, whatever it is that you do, as I adjust this screen, there we go. Black children, you do yourself and the children a disservice if you don't know the history of said children. You've got to know their story. It doesn't mean that they know their story. You got to know their story, which puts you in better position to understand the children who are in your classrooms and in your schools. But it also allows you to take curriculum. Let's pretend that this is curriculum, and to breathe life into that curriculum and ensure that whatever it is you're teaching is relatable to the children who are receiving it. That matters. Enough said. I got guests here, y'all, and I'm getting ready to bring them up. Let me get them here. Let me get them here. And let me change that background right quick. Good morning to my fam here. How we doing? How we doing?
Morning.
Morning.
It's good to see you. Let me get that changed. There we go. Man, I got some hey, to the fam out there. I got some power on this screen right here. You know, we got four powerful principals. One is well, two are trainers of principals as well. But let me read the bios. Trelane Clark. Ms. Trelane Clark is the head of the lower school. And I'm gonna read fast, y'all. So y'all know I stutter when I read fast, but just work with me. Is that because I want to get into this conversation. Is the head of lower school at Dedham Country Day School, a native Bostonian. Trelane's elementary school experience planted the seeds of her dreams to become a school administrator. She went on to become an alumna of Concord Academy in Concord, Massachusetts, where she stepped into a number of high school leadership positions. Trelane holds a BA in Spanish and African American Studies, a Master of Arts in Teaching Elementary Education, and a certificate of Advanced Graduate Studies in Educational Administration. Trelane embarked on her teaching career in the Boston Public Schools. For nearly 30 years, she has had the opportunity to serve students in public, private, urban, suburban, and faith-based school settings in Virginia, Washington, D.C., Boston, and its surrounding areas as a teacher, an assistant principal, and principal. She has shared her passions on podcasts, panels, presented workshops at local, regional, and international conferences for educators throughout her career, including the International Educators Summit for Ghana, ASCD, Massachusetts ASCD, Black Women Educational Leaders, Inc., Massachusetts School Administrators Association, and the Leading Equity Center. Trelane is a contributing author to 2 anthologies, Cultivating Knowledge and Wonder, Perspectives from the Front Lines of Teaching and Leadership, and Women Who Lead, featuring School Principals Volume 2. She currently serves as the national president for Black Women Education Leaders, Inc., a nonprofit organization dedicated to amplifying the voices of supporting and highlighting the accomplishments of Black women in educational leadership. She also serves as a trustee and past president of the Concord Academy Alum Association. She believes that building relationships and providing students with equitable access to everything they need to succeed in culturally sustaining learning environments must be the priority in education today. I got a smile when I read that one, and y'all know why, so we'll leave it alone. As the founder of Thrive Educational Consulting, Trelane seeks to inspire and support educators to thrive, which is the acronym for Teach from the Heart, Model Resiliency, Lead with Integrity, Value Relationships, and ensure equity for students, families, and educators. She enjoys spending time with her 2 children, family, and friends. She stays grounded by faith, positivity, family, activity, seeking joy. In heavy rotation on her calendar are moments filled with reading, writing, music, dancing, and laughter. You know, folks, I don't usually jump in and give remarks on a bio, particularly when I'm reading 3, but I just got to say this one thing. I promise you I'm not going to preach a sermon. The word equity came up 2 or 3 times in this bio. Hey, fam out there. I'm not talking to my guests. I'm talking to the fam out here on the other side of my camera. You can bow down, cave in, and I'm talking about the people in charge now. I'm not talking about principals. I'm talking about the folks who lead these districts. You can bow down all you want to, right? But I'm gonna tell you something. This is coming from your brother, Principal Kafele. The best experience that a child can have in a classroom. Hear me, somebody. The best experience that a child can have in a classroom is an equitable learning experience with an equity mindset instructor led by an equity mindset leader. So you could run, because they've been shutting down these conferences I speak. I lost 5 so far since January 20th, right? The equity-based or black-based, black-themed conferences, right? You can run from those all you want to, but I'm gonna tell you something. Don't expect your achievement levels to soar while you're running. In other words, you might want to be a fighter as opposed to a runner. Don't expect achievement to get better as you take equity and sweep it up into the dustpan and put it into the garbage can. It's not going to work, because again, I'm gonna say it one more time. I'm sorry about doing this, y'all. The best learning experience that a youngster can receive in a school is an equitable learning experience from an equity mindset teacher in a school led by an equity mindset leader. Period. Let me move on to the next bio. Woo! These 4 years, man. Tabari Wallace is the former special advisor to the state superintendent. Tabari sent me one that was a little lengthy, and I said to myself, I can't cut none of this. I just got to read it. So it's too powerful to cut it, y'all. Because I was like, let me edit this paragraph. I said, nah, I can't, because it's too inspiring for somebody else. So is the former special advisor to the state superintendent, principal engagement, and was named the 2018-19 Wells Fargo, North Carolina Principal of the Year. Wallace has been called the drum major for the education profession, which bespeaks of his ability to promote and build bridges for excellence in our field. He earned his current state post by placing students at the center of his mission and motivating them to overcome any challenge presented. He embraces the dispositions of all students' ability to succeed. Wallace, a former math teacher at New Bern High School, has been an educator for 23 years. He served as principal of H.J. McDonald Middle School, Havelock Middle School, and West Craven High School. He's the 2021 Raymond Sarbaugh, I might be messing some of these words up, Leadership Award recipient from the North Carolina ASA, Association of School Administrators, effectively leading his school through the COVID pandemic. Considered in his county as a transformational specialist, Wallace has successfully turned around the 2 schools he led, highlighted by closing the achievement gap while at Havelock Middle School. He has laid the foundation for West Craven High to become the first career academy school in Craven County. Since 2018, he's been traveling the state promoting education while still ensuring the needs of his students and teachers are met at his school. He was the first 2-year advisor to the State Board of Education, was appointed by Governor Cooper to Craven Community College Board of Trustees, and by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tim Moore, to the Professional Educator Preparation and Standards Commission. He serves as former board member of the North Carolina Public Forum, NASSP National Principal of the Year candidate, North Carolina Human Capital Roundtable member, SBE Equity Goal Team member, here's that word again, North Carolina Teacher Support Program Board member, Principal Standards Commission member, Governor's Crime Task Force member, Governor and Community Affairs Committee member, former Teacher Fellows Commissioner, and a New Bern Redevelopment Commissioner Board member. Finally, Carpe Diem sees the day as Mr. Wallace's favorite quote, and in regard to student success, progress, not perfection. He strongly believes that individuals must take advantage of all opportunities to achieve in every field of human endeavor. The Ellen Show sensation, I got to say that again, y'all, the Ellen Show sensation, and by the way, as I'm in the middle of the last paragraph, I wanted to show y'all this video when he was on the Ellen Show, but the last person I had who was on the Ellen Show, Akbar Cook, YouTube flagged me, and they threatened to take the whole video down. So I couldn't take the chance with the Ellen video, but I got something else to show you in a little while. So the Ellen Show sensation is not content to rest on his laurels, and I might say not just the Ellen Show, ABC News, and so many others. Right? He continued his own growth in the educational field and completed his EDS degree, superintendent's license at East Carolina University. Invest in your human capital, and the results will take care of itself. And as he always says, ride or fly. And by the way, you can just go to YouTube and put in Tabari Wallace Ellen, and the video pop right up, and you can check that out and put his name in. Just put his name in, and all the others like ABC News and all that. That'll pop up as well. Got one more, y'all. Hang in there. Wayne Principal Muhammad Hodges boasts nearly 30 years in public education, excelling with KIPP and National Heritage Academies. He began as a social studies teacher at KIPP Memphis schools, achieving level 5 master teacher status by having 90% of his students pass the TCAP exam for 3 consecutive years. Transitioning to a co-school leader at KIPP Memphis Collegiate Middle School, he showcased his leadership prowess. Joining NHA National Heritage Academies in 2013 and middle school dean at Forsyth Academy, Wayne transformed school culture and boosted student achievement significantly. As principal of Research Triangle Charter Academy from 2015, he led the school to its highest enrollment, improved the state report card grade, and secured a rare 10-year charter renewal. In 2020, Wayne became the founding principal of a new NHA school in Greensboro, North Carolina. Later, he served as a traveling turnaround principal, supporting schools in Greenville, Winston-Salem, Detroit, and Indianapolis. In 2022, he revitalized KIPP Durham in North Carolina, reestablishing the school's trust with the East Durham community. Wayne holds a BA in history from Fayetteville State University, where he received a full 4-year Chancellor's Scholarship. He's a graduate of KIPP's School Leadership Program and NHA's School Leadership Academy. To further enhance his educational skills, he participated in Harvard University's Race, Equity, there's that word again, Race, Equity, and Leadership in Schools cohort, and the Trust Leadership Institute's Mastering Leadership Dynamics in Education cohort. Powerful stuff, y'all. And I decided I was going to share it all with the fam out there because, you know, I use these bios to inspire others. So let me get my comments up here and let's go, y'all. Do me a favor, everybody on the fam side, text somebody, tag somebody, retweet, share, repost. Let those Facebook leadership groups know that we are here and we are live. We ready to jump into it, man. We got a lot to talk about, and we got some nice surprises for you as well. So Trelane, let's go. I got like a 3 or 4 parter for you, right? Let's just rap for a minute, and then I'll switch on over. Trelane, you indicated that your elementary experience planted the seeds for your dream to become a school administrator. I find that intriguing because there was nothing about elementary, middle, nor high school that made me think I was going to wind up in this educator space. And then I read your bio, and your seeds were planted at a very young age. So my question is very simple. How so?
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to this. I've been wanting to do this for a very, very long time, so I'm super excited to be here as a mentee of yours. So I was really, really privileged to be able to attend a very small elementary school that was an all-Black school with predominantly Black educators in the city of Boston, run by the Archdiocese with an Afrocentric curriculum. Right. So that right there probably gives you enough. The grounding that I got in that school, I really, really, truly feel like was something that that really propelled me. I learned about who I was as a Black child. I learned about my potential. I learned from people who looked like me, people who wanted me to be the best that I could possibly be. And then one in particular was my 4th grade teacher, became my 8th grade teacher as well. And she was everything, and she still is my godmother, and she lives in Nashville. And the principal was her brother. So between the two of them, I became their unofficial first daughter. And I just stuck up underneath them, and they just accepted me and really just nurtured everything within me. So I wanted to be like him as a leader, and I wanted to be like her as a teacher, because she just saw me for more than what I thought that I was. And I've just carried that with me, and I wanted to be a teacher and a principal just like him, and that's what I tried to do.
I love it. I'm gonna keep going because I got a few for you before I go to the other two. You hold a BA in Spanish and African American Studies. Obviously with me, you know my work. The African American Studies is kind of what jumped out at me. My question to you: why African American Studies, and does African American Studies have any relevance in your current leadership?
Well, originally when I went in to get my bachelor's degree, I went in as an education major. And I had my first education class, and I couldn't stand it. I was like traumatized, like this is not what education is going to be, right. And I got some really sage advice, and I'm really glad that I did, to go for some disciplines that I was really passionate about, and that, that was Spanish as a language and African American studies. Again, connecting to my elementary school experiences, and so I always have had this interest and passion for African American history, and so I feel like, while I have necessarily I've taught a little bit of history and U.S. history, and obviously taught Black history within that. So I feel like it just carries within me, just because I'm a Black woman, and knowing where we came from, why we are here, how we got to this place, and how we can move forward. I think it's just part and parcel to just being a Black woman in leadership. I think if we don't know that, then it's really hard for us to identify what our students need. And how we can help them to understand that they didn't just start today. They didn't just start when they, that there's a whole lineage, there's a whole line of people that have been here before, and rooting for them and making pathways for them to become successful. So I feel like it shows up in just the natural way of being who I am. So.
Love it. When I read in the bio that you presented to the International Educators Summit in Ghana, I got jealous, because for the past last year and this year, I wanted to be there. But see, in the line of work that I'm in as a consultant, as a speaker, July usually fills up somewhere around December and January before we even get to July. So when they sent me the email, I'm like, man, I can't cancel other engagements. So I can't do it this coming year, and I couldn't do it last year. I told them, if you can get this stuff to me earlier, so that, because I have to do that. So my question to you, this is simple. What year did you do it?
Last year.
So you were there last year. So I would have been there with you had I known earlier. And so here's my actual question to that. What impact did that experience? Because it's one thing, you did your presentation, but I know you were there for more days, and you guys traveled and got to see some things, including Goree Island and all that kind of thing. So my question is, there's a part of me that says you and I probably should talk about what I just said, but I'm gonna stay focused, right? What influence, what impact, did that visit to Ghana have on not just the educator, but what impact did that trip to Ghana have on Trelane Clark?
Thank you so much for that question. So for me, this was actually a return. I had the opportunity to study at the University of Ghana in Legon when I was a junior in college for 6 months. So for me to be able to go back there as an entire whole grown adult was a whole different experience, right? And I'm so grateful for that. For me, I wanted to return to a place where I remember feeling so welcome and so whole. And to do that in the space of education, I had to have that. I had to have that opportunity to meet Ghanaian educators, to meet educators from across the world, because there were many, and to be in a space where we were all learning professionally, learning about how we were reimagining education. And I think initially I first thought, I'm going to do my workshop. My workshop is on resilience. And, I said, I'm going to come over there. I got my thing, and I'm ready to even hear from them. But, you focused on making sure that you have, your presentation ready. And then we went to visit Unseen Manso, The Last Bath, and Cape Coast Castle. So Unseen Manso I had never actually heard of, and I was really upset about that. But this was the place where they marched Africans to the river to have them bathe before they were put up for sale, before getting onto the ships. And I had never been there. I never heard about it. I know nothing about it. And I think when I got to that space and when I put my feet in the water, it did something. It really shifted the whole paradigm of, I think, why I was there, what it meant to me to be a Black African American and coming back to that space. And I said, I'm about to talk about resilience, and I don't know who I'm going to tell about resilience, because resilience is in our DNA. This is not something that we have to really, develop. And in some ways we do, but I think just to be reminded, like, our resilience is built in. We have been through the worst.
Yeah.
So for us to talk about how do we do that, it's more of a reminder, like, you already have this, so you can make it through and you can go to the next level. So I think for me, that was one of the realizations where I was like, yeah, I'm not just here to give, I'm here to get a lot.
I love it. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to get there. I will get there. I just have to make the time to get there. But I'm always curious, like, how will I react? Because see, I'm not good just walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, right? Yeah. I'm not good walking the steps of Little Rock Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, right? I'm literally not good when I walk those steps. So how am I going to be on the West Coast of Africa, right? So,
but it's something that you just, like, once you do it, you know that you needed to, that was just a part of your whole existence. And I'm going back this summer in July again to the conference, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm jealous, but I'll be there at some point. Tabari, let's switch gears, and to the fam out there, I'm not going to ask Tabari a question just yet, Principal Wallace. I want to put a video up with no explanation, and then we're going to get into it. So let me just get this right quick, and then it's a very short video, but I want you to check it out.
This is for you, sweetheart. We're gonna plant this here, okay? Education and the Sound Administration. I told you it's gonna do.
Where we at here? Here we are. Here we go. Let me tell you something, man. On the heels of the discussion about Ghana, watching that video almost made me cry. I feel like I need to get a grip right quick. My brother, tell us what we just saw.
Okay, during COVID, as y'all can remember, I don't know if y'all went through it nationally, but here in North Carolina, we had some pretty stringent rules. I mean, we were following all the guidance, and what happened with that isolation is that they were taking all of the rites of passage away from the children. They couldn't have prom. Their whole the athletic season and the art seasons in the spring, they were all canceled. And then they took graduation. So I was going to try and do the graduation like, as they did in Raleigh, where you spread out all the way across the field. And then the current leadership at the time, pretty much close to the last day, was like, no, y'all can't do it. But we had parents that had already flew in and was expecting a graduation. So what we came up with, the staff of West Craven, we came up with the idea of, parades at that time was a thing, because you couldn't touch anybody. You had to stay in your cars and do a parade. So we got with law enforcement, the fire department. I would say the West Side came together for their babies. We put out the call and everybody lined up. And then myself, along with a bunch of teachers, we decided that we would dress up in full regalia and perform graduation or pseudo graduation right there on the porch. And we had these signs with the children's likeness on it, along with, they are graduates. So since they couldn't enjoy it, at least the community around them could enjoy it. But we found a gap. We found a loophole in the law. They said us as agents of the state, school system, we couldn't be more than 10 people Okay, it could be more than 10 people around the student, but they didn't say anything about the family. The family could invite everybody. You know what I'm saying? So we just found that loophole and we said, well, we'll just do graduation on the porch. We will go and take these signs and make sure we recognize these students who've had their rites of passage snatched from them. I mean, they're the only ones that didn't get a graduation. I mean, you know, out of that whole ordeal with COVID. And we said, not my babies, not on my watch. You know, we promised them that we were going to do this, and the staff followed through with it, and the community came together, and we went and saw all 220 of those graduates, myself and staff. You know, we split up to do it, and then we did that. We were all dressed up in full regalia, and we did that so they could capture their moment, and they would not lose all of that rite of passage.
Over the course of how many days was that?
It was about 4 days. It was about 4 days. It took, because West Craven is 485 square miles. So that is, we're rural. I mean, so it was, I mean, we were going over the river and through the woods to get to those babies, but we got to them. It took us a minute, but we got to them. Around the last day, we had the babies calling us, hold up, y'all forgot about me. No, we didn't. We got a schedule. Just stay tuned. We're going to get there.
So I'm thinking about, you know, I got my principal's hat on, and take us to where, like, as you're putting on the regalia and you're getting ready to embark on yet another day, as Principal Wallace, but also as Tabari Wallace, right? Because they're two separate entities. What are you feeling in that moment when you walk up on somebody, on one of your students?
During the parade, or?
Yeah, during that time, just like the video.
Number one, we hadn't seen our babies in so long in person. You know, I was actually overwhelmed. You know, we shed a couple of tears sometimes. Yeah. I didn't put that in the video. I don't want to, you know, Ellen made me cry enough. I didn't want the world seeing me crying, but we hadn't seen our babies. That was the first time we'd seen them that close with our own eyes. Everything else was virtual. So I was like overwhelmed. I think Principal Wallace and Tabari Wallace, the one with the big heart, I mean, I think that kind of intertwined when I saw that, and I was just overcome with the first couple of students. But after that, we had to stop the babies because we didn't want to violate the law. The babies wanted to come up and hug you. You know what I'm saying? But we tried to maintain that 6 feet, because if you saw, I had the sheriff of Craven County with me. He stayed with me the whole time, Chip Hughes. And we didn't want to violate the law, so we had to kind of stop the babies from coming to embrace us. But I wanted to hug every last one of them, Principal Kafele.
Wow. You know, as I looked at it, because I watched the Ellen video a few times, and I watched it when it happened, and then I watched this particular video a few times, and there's so many lessons in that beyond just what we saw. And I want to ask you this question: okay. What is your message, your words to the people who are watching, right? The people who tune into this academy every week, about connecting with the individual student, right? See, it's one thing we talk about the school, but the school wasn't at these homes. It was one family, the one kid, unless there was a sibling there. Talk to us about the significance of the connection, and I'm talking about leadership right now. I'm not talking about the teachers and everybody else. That leadership connection with the students that are enrolled in one school.
I look, you know, local parentis, the law says that those are your children, okay? Those are your children between the hours of 8 and 3, okay? And I look at all of them as my babies. You know, I lost a child, okay? You know, and as you saw on Ellen, I kind of live vicariously through my students, because as I went to middle school and in high school, my child would have been in those schools. So I kind of saw my child in those babies. But in regards to the personal connection with your students, you know, I live by my Principal Kafele. I try to get my staff, and I try to make sure that I do, and I touch every child, but we want to multiply the investment we make in children. Okay. We pay a whole, you know, North Carolina is, you know, education is in the Constitution. So it's a lot of, you know, funding going in education. I want to make sure that we use all those investments in those children to make sure those babies leave the school precipice better from which they came. And then I also want to magnify, you know, the next one is magnify and inspire. Okay. I want to magnify the inspiration of those babies, because if kids are inspired, they'll go above and beyond. If they're not inspired, they're going to be compliance-based. They're going to do just enough just to get by, because every child is one carrying adult away from success. And then last, I want to maximize the impact. What will your dash stand for? What will your dash stand for? I ain't talking about on your headstone, because it's too late to even talk about it then, because you're gone. I'm talking about the dash between when you started education and when you retired. How will you be remembered? Will those children, when they see you in the store, when they see you in the fast food restaurant, will they come from around the counter and give you a hug? That's inspiration. They did not forget you. Kids don't forget the name of their principals. They may forget some teachers, but they ain't gonna forget the principal because that principal is always there. And they always take care of them.
That's right. That's right. And imagine that principal who's not there.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, I have never encountered this, but can you imagine you somewhere and it's a group of kids, I mean adults, and you were the former principal and they all excited, and then one of them's like, "You are our principal?" Right? Can you imagine that? I would feel like crawling under a rock. You don't remember me, right? So I must have fallen short some kind of way, right? Right. Listen, your bio. I read the bio, but there's a paragraph I need to reread in terms of the question I want to ask you. Okay. Wallace has served as principal of H.J. McDonald Middle School, Havelock Middle School, and West Craven High School. He's a 2021 Raymond Sarbaugh Leadership Award, recipient of the North Carolina Association of School Administrators, from the North Carolina Association of Middle Administrators, effectively leading his school through the COVID pandemic. Considered in his county as a transformational specialist, Wallace has successfully turned around the two schools he led, highlighted by closing the achievement gap while at Havelock Middle School. He has laid the foundation for West Craven High to become the first career academy school in Craven County. So you are a transformational specialist and a turnaround leader, right? You have receipts. So here's my question. When you reflect on your years of principal leadership, of all the traits that come along with that, all the characteristics that accompany your leadership, for the fam that's watching right now, what comprises a turnaround principal? What is, and specifically, what is that trait, that characteristic that is just unavoidable, non-negotiable about who and what a turnaround principal is?
Mm-hmm. When it comes to school turnaround, because as you read those schools, as you rallied off the schools that I had been at, they sent me to Havelock Middle School and we turned it around and we grew. We was in the 70s and 80s by the time they sent me to HJ. They had redistricted HJ and put like 4 different projects in the same school. And then we sent me over there to make it work. And we broke records. I mean, we just kept going on up. And then we went out to West Craven, which, I was only there. I didn't get to finish the business because I went to DPI at West Craven. But the trait is this. To all those in school turnaround, if there's teachers on here that anybody's thinking about it, when it comes to closing a gap in school turnaround, if you're in school turnaround, you're already at the bottom of the barrel. You're at 20% proficiency and you haven't made growth, okay? What is required is this word, and y'all can write it down: maximum discretionary effort. The state pays teachers and administrators to be at the school from 8 to 3 o'clock. But what those teachers do with the minutes contained between 8 and 3 o'clock is based on the principal. It's based on if the principal is inspiring them to go above and beyond and stay after school and do the tutoring and go to each child one by one to make sure it happens. It takes the principal to make sure that the teachers have the resources to make sure they get it in. Then that school improvement plan is where it all comes together. And that principal needs to be in those classrooms, in school improvement. His or her presence is the most needed. It can't be a coach, instructional coach. Can't be the superintendent. It can't be what? It has to be the leader, because we are the justice in that building. We're the only ones that can hold teachers accountable per the law. And we're the only ones that can make sure that we get everything happen and get maximum discretionary effort out of those teachers. If they're inspired, they will follow you. They won't ask for anything. They will go and they will be leading on your every word. They'll wait for you to come on the morning announcements, because we are thermostats. We are not thermometers. If principals needed to be thermometers and just measure and report back to central office the climate and the discretionary effort going in there, they wouldn't need you there. You set the tone of your building as a principal. That's why it's so important for you to get on that intercom with your cheery voice and you pep them up and you get kids ready for the day. That's why they have to hear from you every day. Ask your babies. If you do the announcements every day and then you go to a conference and come back, they will ask you, where you been, Mr. Wallace?
You got that right.
you know what's happening. So that's the key. Maximum discretionary effort. If you can get that out of your teachers and your students, you can't help but pull yourself out of the school tournament.
Let me put that back up on the screen. Where is it at? Here it is. Maximum discretionary
effort. Yes, sir.
And those of you out there that know my work as it relates to that morning message, as I use the word message, as it relates to that message, it was the same thing. When I'm missing that next day, like, where were you? Because it got to the point where they were expecting and looking forward to hearing what I got to say for that day. Man, that matters. That matters. I appreciate you sharing that. Let me go to Principal Muhammad, who's been waiting patiently. Let me clear my screen here. Here we go. Principal Muhammad, I knew you before a viral video that you appeared in came out. We had met before. And then when the video came out, I said, that's that brother. And in the video, I paid attention to the video, and I cannot tell you how many times I've watched that video. It's got to be in the 30s. I watch it over and over. I just love that freaking video, right? So even though the video in isolation is not who you are as principal per se, but it has influence as to who you are as principal. So what I want to do, fam, I want y'all, for those of you that don't know this video that I'm gonna show you, I gotta show you this video. Some of you are gonna say, oh, that's him, right? So because so many people have seen this video. So let me share this with you right quick. It's about 4 minutes, so just sit back, get your popcorn out, and check this out. This like I said, I've watched this video at least 30 times, right? It's that powerful for me. Here we go. Here we go. And I should have said that's KRS-One that's in the video with him, the rapper.
All right, here's a little something you can ponder in your mind. Something that has never been explored along these lines. Paint a mental picture of the guns you can find. And I'll show you why we're so fascinated with the 9. The reason that we like it doesn't lie in the design. The secret of our adoration lies behind the 9, the number. It has a special meaning that's divine, a spiritual significance that needs to be defined. Man's relationship with the number 9 is odd. It has its beginnings and its origins in God. Here is an example that I'm giving to you first. Consider there are 9 planets in the universe: Mercury, Venus, Earth, then the Mars, plus the other 5 planets rest among the stars. They're all heavenly bodies, but herein lies the wisdom. Consider that your heavenly body has 9 systems, a planet for each system, a system for each planet. This seems to be a symbolism that we take for granted. Circulatory, reproductive, skeletal, and nervous, muscular, and endocrine. The others go research it, and then just prepare. The universe is 999 times 999 times squared. Hey, there's a little science from the time dropped right from the mind of the sign, number 9. 9 represents birth, completion. That's all. Take notice how the 9th month is the start of fall. It's the 3rd out of 4 seasons, so peep what you find, that the 3 for the season is the square root of 9. Bullets from the 9mm keep on gunning. My mother Ty said that 9 is the number of the woman. So look closely at the word feminine, and you will find, if you break it down right, that it's really feminine, the woman in 9. And that's just a segment, because a 9 looks like the bottom half of a woman when she's pregnant. So peep how it takes a 9 months to have a baby. Approximately 270 days she carries her seed. And that math is divine, because the 2 plus the 7 plus the 0 equals 9. A man, when he marries a woman, the band is placed on a woman's 9th finger on her hand. Surprising? Here is something a little more enticing. Retailers use a 9 in marketing and advertising. Pricing: a car is $20,099. Gum is $79. Candy is 99 cents. A gallon of gas, $3.99. They do this because they know the attractiveness behind 9. It always multiplies back to 9. Use any number with a 9, you can find this is true. 9 times 2 is 18. And 1 plus the 8 equals 9. Know what I mean? 9 times 8. See, that's 72. The 7 plus the 2 is 9. This you can do. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, even 9 times 9, 10, or 11, 360 degrees, you will find that the 3 plus the 6 plus the 0 equals 9. Got myself.
Okay, let's go.
All right. All right. All right.
Oh, man.
That's.
Oh, man.
Let me get rid of that. There we go. There we go. I can't get enough of that video, man.
I appreciate that.
I just can't. I can't. It's. I'll probably watch it again later today. But I know the genesis for the video, like why, like how and why it happened, because I've also watched a lot of your radio interviews and all that stuff. But talk to the folks, and then we'll tie it into why we're here today. How did it happen?
Yeah, it really was an organic moment. So at the time, I was principal of Kip Durham Collegiate Middle School, and we were leading a turnaround effort there in Durham, North Carolina, and the Bembe Festival. It's an annual festival in Durham, North Carolina that focuses on African culture and history. KRS-One just happened to be, one of the guest performers. Well, the local radio station, K97.5, Brian Dawson in particular, really got to give a shout out to Brian Dawson from K97.5, who had just been a big supporter of ours. My director of operations and Brian have been working together, and he was just a huge supporter. Principal Muhammad, whatever you guys, are trying to do in the community, we'll support you. He had come to the school previously to do an end of the year testing tour that he typically does. And so they go to the schools and he does like a pep rally to get everybody excited about, end of the year testing. So when they came to Kip Durham, somebody let the cat out of the bag without my permission and told Brian Dawson that Principal Muhammad had bars. And so he said, well, I can't leave here without getting some of those bars. So he put on something and I gave him some bars, and KRS-One got wind of that video and said that he wanted to meet me. This is what I was told. And so after the concert at the Bembe Festival, Brian Dawson came to get me. He said, Principal Muhammad, come on backstage. We'll go meet KRS-One. I had already met KRS-One before, but nonetheless, we go backstage and meet him. And that particular song, that particular rhyme was really inspired by him years ago. I wrote that probably in the year 2002 or 3, maybe 4, maybe. But it really was inspired by KRS. And I grew up a huge KRS fan. And so I just wanted them to hear it. And so something moved in me and said, hey, don't let this moment go without him hearing this. And that's what happened.
Wow. That was a great day. That was a great day.
Yeah.
You got the teacher in the building and had that rhyme ready to go, and you delivered. And that thing was seen by millions of people.
my inbox blew up after that, man, from everybody. I mean, all sorts of celebrities and everybody was just in my inbox. I mean, you name it, they reached out to me. It was life-changing, really.
There, it just goes to show we got to stay ready. We got to stay ready. Now to link it into what you do, I read online that you uniquely integrate hip hop music and culture into the educational environment.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Break that down for us.
Yeah, well, I think like hip hop, of course, right, is it's not something you do, it's what you live, right? And so everything about me, I am hip hop. From the way that I talk to the way that I walk, the way that I interact with people, it just lives and breathes hip hop. I have a focus on history that comes through, in the way that I teach and the way that I lead. And so I try to bring all of that to the building. The way that I make sure that I push my students or push my teachers, the atmosphere that I try to set in the building, all of that is connected to hip hop. We talk about a consciousness, building a consciousness and equity-based. And when you talk about an equity-based consciousness, like that's what hip hop is all about. Equity. It's about inclusion, right? It's about, that's the essence of it and the beginning of it. It's multifaceted. It's multicultural. And so I try to take that particular mindset into my approach and how I deal with people. Like hip hop doesn't exclude anybody. It's universal, right? It brings people together. And so that is my whole approach when I walk into a building, no matter what type of building I walk into. So if I'm walking into a school or leading a school where it's an urban school, or whether it's a school that is not urban, you're going to get the same Principal Muhammad, and I'm going to be able to adapt to whatever environment I am, genuinely being myself and pushing people to come outside of their box. And that is the power of hip hop, and that's what I bring to a building.
Powerful stuff. You know, you are a traveling turnaround principal. Talk to us about your role as this traveling turnaround principal. Like what does that entail? Supporting schools in Greenville, Winston-Salem, Detroit, and Indianapolis. Talk to us about that work.
Yeah, so as you mentioned earlier, I was working for National Heritage Academies, which is a charter school network located in about 10 states. They got about 100 schools or so in 10 states, and there's about 15, 16 of those schools located in North Carolina. But I started out in one of their schools in Winston-Salem, and I was the middle school dean of that school. And so we managed to turn around and transform that culture, the academics there. And then I went over to Research Triangle Charter Academy in Durham and became the principal of that school for 5 years. So after turning around that school, we moved that school from a D to, like, we were 4 points from a B before I left. And like you mentioned, we got a 10-year charter renewal, highest enrollment that school had ever seen. NHA asked me to become the founding principal of a new school in Greensboro, because I was living in Greensboro. And so that stint was short-lived. And the company said, listen, we have something that we think is better fitting for your skill set. We have some schools that are struggling, and we would love for you to be able to support them where they have leadership gaps, where the leaders could use some development, some assistance, and we can turn around some schools. And so I supported one of the schools in Winston for a while, went over to Greenville, to Winterville Academy for a while. And then I got the call, we need you to go to Detroit to help assist at a school there. They didn't have a principal. The school did not have they didn't have a 3-5 dean. They didn't have a K2 dean. They were really lacking. And so I came into that school to provide a little bit of stability and help get that school through the end of the year. They brought in a new principal, kind of worked with that new principal, and then I left. Next assignment was in Detroit, Indianapolis, school that had lost their principal, had lost about 22 teachers. And then when I came aboard in July, the very first week that I got there, the middle school dean resigned. And so it was some big work, right? And the academics were suffering. The culture of the school and the morale was low. And so had to go in and turn that around. And so it just was the process of rebuilding people, essentially. Rebuilding people, right? Repairing the hurt that had taken place, the damage that had been done to people, reestablishing trust between the teachers and the office of the principal, because that had been breached. And we managed to do that. And so with that being able to happen, people could focus on teaching the babies, right? And then you can get the academic results that you wanted. And so I was on that assignment for about 9 months, and then returned to North Carolina to work for KIPP Durham. And that was a turnaround project that was not associated with National Heritage Academies, but my experience doing that is what allowed them to take a chance on me to begin the turnaround efforts at KIPP Durham. And then I wound up where I am now, at Lakeside Charter Academy in Charlotte. So the work, I've just continued to do that turnaround work, to take on some very challenging assignments. But it's what I love, because I don't want to see any school struggling, failing, because there's children in that school who need good, high quality education. There are families who are depending on that school to deliver on the promise that they said they would. And so I enjoy going into schools and helping getting them on strong footing.
Love it. You know, I have a follow-up question to that. I got a question for you, but I got a follow-up. We'll call this an interim question that I want to ask all three of you. I'm going to start with you, though, Principal Muhammad. When you consider the schools you've worked with, and we'll call that micro, and then you just consider the country in terms of just things we see from afar.
Mm-hmm.
In your estimation, where are the graduate schools getting it wrong as it relates to preparation for principal leadership?
Oh man, great question. I don't know if a lot of the graduate schools are adequately preparing principals for the realities of the extra things that children bring with them into the schools, right? To be able to deal with those things. Like it's one thing to prepare them for to be able to lead instructionally and do all of the administrivia that principals have to do. But it's another thing to be able to touch the hearts of people, right? To human relations, I think maybe where they're getting it wrong and falling short. And I'll say this to a lot of our Black school leaders: Black ain't enough. Black ain't enough, right? There's other things that you have to bring to the table. And I don't know if there is enough focus on the other qualities that good principals and school leaders need, such as being, instructional and informational. And you have to know how to be impactful, and your focus on data and be insightful. All of these things that work outside of, just what you bring to the table. That's not enough. That's just my estimation.
No, I love it, and I agree with you. Black is not enough, and I without getting deep into it, I had to remind some of my folks that my Black males, I needed you as a Black man, but that's not the end all. Right. There's some other things I need out of you.
Right.
Well, right. Let me go to Trelane on the same question.
Well, I would definitely agree with Principal Muhammad, but one thing I really focus on in my leadership is that relationship building piece. And I can't say that I learned how to do that in graduate school. That was something that I had to, in some cases, learn the hard way, right? Mm-hmm. By, trying to come in and say, okay, I got to get to this work. But you can't get to this work without getting to the people who need to do the work, and getting with the people and alongside the people that are doing the work. So that's one big thing that I have seen, even with teachers coming out of graduate programs, and like there's gung ho, like, okay, I'm going to come in and I'm going to teach these kids, but how do I actually work with my colleagues to do that? Yeah. How do I not have an us and them relationship between myself and my school leader, right? Such that I can be successful. So that's that human side, that making sure that I'm actually able to engage with the people who need to do this work. I think that graduate schools really need to have folks spend much more time in the schools than they are sitting in the classrooms, because that's where the real learning is seeing it on the ground, is having the conversations and asking the questions of, when that baby is running down the hall, what are you going to do? Right. Yeah. Being able to do that on the spot, that's where the real learning occurs.
Powerful stuff. I agree. Principal Wallace, same thing.
I would say the trajectory of our prep programs are skewed. I'm going to just go ahead. I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm going to just tell you exactly how it is. If it's not in law that you have to have this number of internship hours and this number of class hours, okay, then the institution, higher ed, gets to pick what they want to do. So the state agency that gives licenses to principals and to teachers, I think in North Carolina it's aligned, but in regards to principals, it just got aligned a couple of months ago. You had some principals coming through with 200 hours of internship and probably 7 classes. Now, everybody on the panel of principals y'all know that's not enough time.
That's right.
That's not enough time. So, and guess what? To people interviewing these candidates, we give the license. Once the university says they satisfied all of their things and they send it to the state agency, they print the license off. And so when you get to a district, you have varying fields of expertise in regards to these teachers and really principals. North Carolina, we're catching up now because it's in the law now. We fixed that. But we had a range from 204 courses for a principal add-on to, if you went principal fellows in North Carolina, you got 17 courses and 1,500 hours of internship. And we gave the same license. You gave the same license. And not only that, and I wrap with this, it's not really all on the but what we call APAs, the university levels. It's not only that. Y'all, we have 33% of veteran teachers in North Carolina. We have 33% of new teachers coming out. And guess where the other 33% is coming from? The street. It's called lateral entry or residency now it's called. They come right off if they have a 4-year degree and a grade point average. We stick them right in front of kids with no pedagogy, with no classroom management, without nothing. And they're just in there teaching. They're glorified substitutes. And we need that because of the teacher shortage. I'm not stepping on anybody to process. We really need that so we can fill the coffers in the state. So that's what's going on. I mean, we have no alignment. I mean, it's very, very skewed. We're catching up now. Our General Assembly is on it. I got to give it to them, and our state board is on it. But that's what was happening historically in regards to teacher and principal prep.
Yeah, more powerful information. And I'm sure that the folks on the on the thread probably got some thoughts as well as far as where grad school is getting it wrong. One of my areas is instructional leadership. I think we're getting it wrong in terms of preparing folks. Another area that I always say is assistant principal preparation. We're preparing folks to become principals, but they're not going to step into the principalship. A lot of them, they're going to be assistant principals for a while, and that may be a different role. And there's got to be preparation for, well, what does that entail versus the reality of being in an urban school district, and I may become a full-time disciplinarian. Well, that's because it's a vicious cycle, and that cycle has to end, and that person has to be an instructional leader, just like theoretically the principal is. But that's a whole nother conversation. Let me go back to Principal Muhammad, because I had another one for you. You participated in Harvard University's Race, Equity, and Leadership in Schools cohort. And as I processed that, I thought about, the current political climate in America as it relates to race and equity, as I talk about probably every day of my life these days. But despite that, the current political climate in America, talk to us about why the topic of race, equity, and leadership matters for school leaders.
I think it matters for school leaders because your overall objective is to ensure that every student in your building gets what they need. And what we have to understand is sometimes they have not gotten what they need based on their color, their background, where they're from, the neighborhood that they live in. They have been not afforded equal opportunities. Their families may have not been afforded certain opportunities because of race, right? And because of the inequities. And so how we lead, we have to take those things into account. We have to understand that the people who come to our building, the children who come to our building, there are experiences tied to their race. One of the things that I hate to hear a teacher or anybody say is, I don't see color. Because if you don't see color, then you don't see the experiences that are tied to my color, right? And so our children in our building, man, they have daddies and uncles and sometimes aunts and mamas who are, in the criminal justice system. They have family members who have been accosted by, police officers, or they have just had some very unfortunate things happen to them because of their color. And so we have to deal with the lingering effects on their emotions and their perceptions of authority figures, which we are when they come into our buildings. And so it is critical that we as school leaders learn the things that have happened historically and how that has fed into what we see today, what the impact of that is on them, and understand how that evinces itself in their behaviors and in their attitudes when they come into our school building, so that we can take the proper approach. So that opportunity at Harvard was really eye-opening for me. It was one of the most impactful professional developments that I've ever had the opportunity to do. And it just really affirmed a lot of things that I knew, but also opened my eyes to a lot of things that I did not.
Yeah, good stuff. You know, as a topic today, and I haven't even really used the language, but the topic I came up with was ineffective leadership translates into underperforming schools. Now, as I did last week with my guests last week, I came up with a topic that made an assumption that they agreed with it. And then I said to them live, I told them that live, I said, I assume you agreed with this, but you may not. So, so we let them speak on it. And here again, I did the same thing. I came up with a topic, but I didn't ask you if you agreed with it. So I'm gonna just put you on the spot live, and I'm gonna start with Principal Clark. Once again, ineffective leadership translates into underperforming schools. My question to you is, do you agree or disagree, and why, for whatever answer you give us?
I definitely agree. So as you have said, and I have learned from you and many others, how important the leader is to the success of the school. And so students, teachers, families will rise to the level of expectations, the levels of love and authenticity that the leader brings to that school community. And I also think too that, when we say underperforming, we're off, our first thing is to think about, how students are performing academically. But I think about it holistically, how are our students faring as young individuals, as people, as they're growing into learning about who they are, when there is a lot of conflict and turmoil in terms of how students are interacting with one another. That has a lot to do with the leader, and how is the leader establishing a culture and a community that says this is acceptable here and this is not acceptable here. This is how we are, and this is how we aren't. And so all of those pieces, we can be underperforming in how our teachers are engaging with families, right? Our teachers actually making sure that families understand how their children are doing, and if they need support, how can they get that support, right? What can we do to help families get the support that they need, maybe that even the school can't really provide, but how are we that conduit to make sure that happens? So underperforming, I think, can go across many different lines, but definitely the leadership is really key to that, because you as the leader can serve in so many different capacities to be a pathway and a gateway to make sure that the school is performing at the highest level possible.
Yeah, and before I go to Principal Wallace, let me just put this on the screen. Principal Trelane Clark. This is her second book. She's a contributing author to both books. It's 10 practicing principles, and each of them has a chapter: cultivating knowledge and wonder, perspectives from the front lines of teaching and learning. So I would think that each of them has a cover with their picture. I guess that's how it works. Yeah. So this is the Trelane Clark version. So you can go right to Amazon and get yourself a copy of this one and the one that she contributed to the prior to this one, right? So knowledge and wonder. This is a very good book. I read all of yours, and then I was going through some of the other writings as well. But go to Amazon and get yourself a copy. Or Trelane probably wants you to go to her website. So give me her website real quick.
Thrive Consulting. Oh my goodness, I'll get it to you.
You put
I'm going to get it wrong.
See what's happening. Let me tell y'all what's happening in real time. When those of you who are with me with the monologue, I said that that the author makes peanuts on books, but Principal Clark said, "Well, give me them peanuts, right? Order it from me, not Amazon." So we'll put it up on the screen in a little while.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Principal Wallace, same thing. To me, ineffective leadership, it translates into underperforming schools. I didn't say low performing. I said underperforming, right? Do you agree or disagree, and why? Unmute yourself.
I totally agree. I didn't want to interrupt my colleagues on the call, but I totally agree with those sentiments because it is actually the principal's responsibility to create an environment, a school environment for all others to thrive in. That's your teachers and your students. And in that environment, you must have and you must fortify the teachers and the students' beliefs. A lot of times as principals, we focus on the behaviors. And that's why you stay underperforming. You focus on the behaviors and you're just spinning your wheels. But beliefs, the Truist Institute teaches us that beliefs drive behaviors. Behaviors produce the results. And then the results therein reinforce the beliefs.
You got to run that one again.
So,
Yeah. Slow that down. That was sounding deep.
Yeah, well, you got to create that environment, but beliefs, they drive the behaviors. And then the behaviors produce the results. And then the results therein reinforce those beliefs. If you believe all your babies can learn in that classroom, again, you get maximum discretionary effort. And that is where the principal is key at with their coaching. A lot of people take it personal. And I tell all the principals just like this: it may not be your fault how those children came to you, but it is your responsibility to get them on grade level. That's what you need to understand in your personal principal's development. And a lot of times, Principal Kafele, what it is when you sit underperforming school, it's a range of things. But but it still goes back to the principal and ineffective leadership, because people will say, well, I didn't have teachers, or I have all international teachers. Well, guess what? We should have been proactive in our recruitment of teachers during the year before, so we can make sure we get teachers in those classrooms. And I'm gonna end with that part. People stay where they're tolerated, but they gravitate to where they're celebrated. So that's why when you move school to school to school, your teachers come right with you, because they got a good leader. They know they're gonna be taken care of, and they know they're gonna be fully supported.
Yeah, love it. Same question to Principal Muhammad. Ineffective leadership translates into underperforming schools. Do you agree, disagree, and why?
totally agree, brother Tabari. Took my truest quote, but there's something else that we learned at Truist that really reminds me of this, man. And it says that the quality of an organization's performance is reflected in the quality of the leadership. So you can tell, right? You can tell how good the leadership is by the performance of the organization, and schools are no different. John Safia said, either you allowed it or you taught it. Like, so if something is happening in your building that you want to be happening or you don't want to be happening, either you as a leader, you taught it or you allowed it to happen, right? And so we have to own what happens in our buildings. And if they're underperforming, we have to be reflective and take a look at ourselves and say, what am I doing to try to move the needle on this? I thought about a school that I had went to, and that school was underperforming. And I remember on the interview, the kids were everywhere, man. They were all over the hallway. It was loud. They were rockers. It looked like a civil rights march when they was coming down the hallway. And I told the guy who was interviewing me, I said, this is how they are every day. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay. He said, you can change this. I can change this. He said, how will you change this? I said, I'm gonna tell them we're not gonna do this. Like, I'm just gonna tell them this is not what we're going to do here with me, right? And I said the mascot. I noticed the mascot on your uniforms is a lion. I said, as it looks like a lion. He said, is that a lion? He said, yeah, it's a lion. I said, well, here's what I want you to understand. Your leader got to be a lion. You can't wear that little mascot. Your leader got to be a lion, and I'm a lion. Yeah. And so the leader is so important. And as the leader goes, so goes the school. It's just that simple. And so if you are effective as a leader, the school will be effective.
Man, Principal Kafele, can I back off what he just said? Because that's like Principal Wayne being a prophet this morning. I'm going to tell you now. But he said something key there. He said, with your coaching and what you support, I want all your viewers to know, and because it's something principals are dealing with. For some reason in today's time, people don't like confrontation. It's not confrontation. It's coaching when you redirect the teacher. But no feedback is feedback. You are reinforcing mediocrity in your buildings. So when you see the teacher doing it wrong, or you see something wrong in your building, you suppose you're supposed to address it right then, because if you don't, that silence is reinforcing that mediocrity. And remember, no feedback is feedback.
No
That's right.
feedback is feedback.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, Yolanda said, pass the plate. You know, to the fam out there, you know, the regulars, you already know that I always ask my guests to send me some talking points on areas that they are passionate about. And I kind of went overboard on my own questions. It's already 12:30 and I haven't even gotten to those talking points. But I go overboard every week. You know, that's nothing out of the ordinary. You know, I'm passionate about this platform. So I got all these questions I want to throw at them. And then we go to these talking points. So we hear y'all. I asked them, did they have time? So I'm requesting of the fam that's watching, give us some time too, man. Where you gonna find this anywhere else for this length of time? Of course, the Fantastic Four, all of us, we all bring this every Saturday morning. And that's a beautiful thing. So starting at 10 o'clock on Saturday, all the way until I'm done, whenever I'm done. Sometime it's 1 o'clock, sometime it's 2 o'clock Eastern time, right? But that's a lot of free PD, right? And then Sunday night is 7 with Josh Tovar. That's a lot of free PD. So hang in there with us. I want to go. And by the way, before we jump into this, Principal Clark, just when you're finished, that link you sent me, put it right in the chat. Not in the unless you put it in the private chat. Maybe you did. You did. All right, I'll copy and paste it. All right. So I tend not to look at that. Right. I'll copy and paste it. So let's go to that talking point. Let me read it to the fam. You said, I'm passionate about the need for and support of Black women in educational leadership, what they need to sustain themselves, and what they need from others. I know you touched on it before, but I think this is going a little bit deeper. What are you saying to us?
Well, I don't remember the exact statistics, but the number of Black women in superintendent level leadership and principal leaderships remains in the single digits. And that is something that we continue to work on. I think as the president of Black Women Education Leaders Incorporated, our goal is to bring together all of these women, as many as possible. Thank you, Ms. Dr. Kendra, 7%. I was going to say 8, but I thought it was around there. But it's definitely not enough, and it definitely does not reflect who is in our schools and in our classrooms. I just believe that, one, we are such gems, and I think that there's so much that we bring to education spaces. We are one of the most educated parts of the population, and oftentimes we don't get recognized for that. We deal with many things, microaggressions, and being passed over for positions, and all kinds of things. And so whether it's from my own experiences or those of others that I meet along the way, it's so wonderful to be in the company of Black women who are passionate about what they do, who are unapologetic about what they do and who they are. I have learned so much from so many women constantly every day, from networking, from supporting, to just learning how to be someone's sister, just to listen to someone who's going through something, or wanting to advance their careers and not quite sure how to get there because of the environment that they're in, making decision to move to a different city in order to be able to grow in their career. So that's the side for Black women, but also the side of where schools need to actually bring something to the table themselves, right? Where the administrators, where the central office folks need to recognize that when you have the opportunity and are fortunate to get an accomplished Black woman who is an education leader in your space, what do you need to keep them there? Right? I don't think that we talk about that enough, right? So I think it was Mr. Wallace who said, we're not going to stay where we're not welcome. And why should we? Right. And so we have to teach other folks sometimes how to treat us and what they can and cannot do. right? It's just like with our children, some things they just not gonna get away with when it comes to us. And so, when we're thinking about what Black women need, I feel like we need things like authenticity. We need for people to come to us with genuineness, right? To know that we actually, they actually are for us and want to see us succeed. We need connection. We need people who are going to actually want to know who we are, outside of our roles as leaders, but also understanding that when we come, we stand on business when we come, right? And we want to make sure that these babies are getting what they need, unapologetically, regardless of whatever the circumstances are. And we need space. We need space to lead. We need space to grow. We need space to make mistakes. We need space to come back from those mistakes, just like everybody else. Because oftentimes we're often scrutinized at a higher level, often with no reason. And so how do our organizations respond to that such that we feel like we can really, really make a difference and be successful in front of teachers and students and families? So those are some of the things that I'm constantly thinking about.
That's a whole session, 'cause there's so much more that I know you can say, and a billion questions that I can ask. But I do want to ask one before we move on. I feel that I've been blessed to have the platform that I have. And when I say platform, I don't mean just this platform, the AP and New Principals Academy. I just mean the overall work that so many people feel comfortable in reaching out, right? With concerns that you just expressed. So a lot of Black women will reach out to me and share what you shared, but they're seeking me to give advice. And my question to you, as I'm not a Black woman, how do we make, and this may be an on the spot type of question, but it's not let's see how it goes. How do we make more Black women aware that they're not alone in the challenges that they're facing in their schools? Because see, let me just say this before I even give you the floor. Because when I get those inboxes, I'm getting inboxes from women who feel overwhelmed, right? From women who feel that they want to quit their job, right? That I can't do this, right? And in the dialogue, I'm asking them, are you talking to other Black women? And they may say something like, well, I'm the only one in my district, right? Or I don't feel I can have this conversation with another, in the that type of thing. So how do we make them aware that they're not alone, right? That you're not alone, that there are others who are fighting the same identical battle, but I just need someone else to lean on, where we can brainstorm together what our next steps may be. Floor is yours.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question. The first part, you have this platform. We need our Black men who know about this to share. We need other Black women to share. Listen, I live in Boston, Massachusetts. I was born and raised here. There's not that we're here, but there's not a whole lot of us here. We don't look anything like North Carolina. Like, we just don't. We never will. Right? So when you find someone who looks like you and you genuinely want to say, what's up, girl? Like, if you get a little inkling of that, you need to go ahead and just do that, right? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the situation is. I was looking for an organization to do just what you said, to provide some support, to provide that, like, I'm not alone. Like, I'm going through this thing and I don't have anybody that I can really, really share this authentically with. And I found that actually on what was formerly known as Twitter. And that's how I found Black Women Education Leaders Incorporated, which was established by Dr. Latrice Younger. So thankful for her actually putting into place what she needed and provided that structure for all of us. And so now that we know Black Women Education Leaders Incorporated is here for any Black women in any aspect of educational leadership, and we try to provide that space. We provide webinars, we provide book discussions. Once a month, I do a sister circle, and we may have a topic, we may not, but folks can just come and talk about whatever it is. I don't allow AI assistance in there. There's no recording, nothing. It is to come and say, I am dealing with this thing and I don't know what in the world to do. And we will sit there, we will brainstorm with each other, we will pass out resources or suggest things or just laugh. Sometimes we just need a laugh. If we could have a real hug, we would do that, but we give ourselves virtual hugs and let us know. We exchange phone numbers. We make sure that we have folks' email so that you can say, hey, if you need help, like really reach out. And we check on each other. We say, hey, I have, how did that go? How'd your interview go? We've given, folks opportunity to do mock interviews with folks. Oh. So like all kinds of different things we are able to do just because of that safe space and that network that we are trying to create. So Black Women Leadership, you are not alone. Please reach out to us. We want to be support, and we want to be support that we know that you can also be support, right? Because it's not just we just given to you. This is definitely a give and take for one another, so that our sisterhood remains strong and powerful, and we continue to welcome anyone who needs that support.
So how do they reach you?
So blackwomeneducationleaders.com is our website /membership. You can join to be a member, and you'll get an email from me to welcome you once you join the organization.
Give me that one more time.
www.blackwomeneducationleaders.com. Y'all
got that? Y'all got it? Somebody do me a favor. Type that up and so I can put it on the screen. It's Adrian joined last month.
Yay.
Yeah, somebody type that up for me. Normally Dr. Houston would do that, but I know she had another meeting this morning, but this afternoon now. But somebody type that up for me, and then I can highlight it. That's good stuff. Let me go. We're going over to Principal Wallace, and you indicated that my plate. I kind of changed your sequence because I knew that I was going to be asking you questions that related to what you had up top, and I did. My plate runneth over. The unsustainability of the role of the principal. That sounds heavy duty. What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying, actually, every time something new comes to education, whether it be the COVID protocols or whether it be the new requirements, anytime the General Assembly, the Governor's Office, State Board of Education, Department of Public Instruction, or the local Board of Education, or the local superintendent or cabinet comes up with a new initiative, a new idea, a new instructional strategy, something, it falls on the principal's plate. It falls on the principal's plate. And not only that, the principal already has to deal with the hiring and the management of human talent, the school improvement plan, professional development of all under their purview, teacher support, student discipline, crisis management, school report card, the ESSER cliff, letters, PLCs, IEPs, academic, safety, community. I can keep going. And everything, it's almost like the principal has 78 direct reports that they must juggle and manage on a daily basis. And by law, he is bound. He or she has all the power, but also holds all the responsibility that if he or she slips in one of those areas, here they come. You're the one held accountable. I don't know if you realize this, Principal Kafele, but in North Carolina, the principal is the only one to have his compensation, his pay affected if the children don't show growth.
Oh.
Swings of $15,000 if you're in high school. If you have high growth, you get a bonus. They call it a bonus, but once you get it for 2 or 3 years, that becomes part of your lifestyle. And you can, if the kids are high growth, they have $15,000 extra on top of your compensation. But the minute they drop to not met, that $15,000 is taken away from them come January 1.
Ooh.
And now you got to take your daughter's car back or whatever you got 2 years ago when you had that compensation. Now you got to adjust your entire lifestyle. The superintendent is not held liable. The teachers are not held liable. Their pay is not affected. The board, none of these other stakeholders are held liable. So what I'm saying to you is, as these new initiatives keep coming down, they never seem to take anything off of the principal's plate. It's always there, but they keep adding to it and adding to it. And once you have 74 direct reports where you have to do 4 observations and 3 observations and a summative on most of your teachers, and then you have the clerical people you have to do one on per the local board, you know, your assistant principals. I mean, that's enough right there of a job to take you 180 days. But you got to find some other way to get everything else in. That's why Aspen Institute, if you Google Aspen Institute and the unsustainability of the principal, there is a litany of research there, national research. Because I was on that panel. I worked with Aspen for 2 years while we developed these things. So that's where the unsustainability of the principalship is really a big dire warning that's coming down the plate, that if we don't act, then we're going to have some issues in the upcoming years.
All right, let me be a fellow North Carolina principal that's on the call right now, because I'm sure there's some either watching now or will be watching later. Principal Wallace, I'm aware of this, and I've heard this, and it's added to the stress I already have. And not only that, Principal Wallace, but I'm putting in 70 plus hours a week. Let's say 80 plus hours a week already, and I have no life, right? I'm trying to stay afloat relative to the school, but I don't want to lose the bonus that I got because I became accustomed to that lifestyle. What do you have for me, Principal Wallace? Like what do I do to bring back some semblance of balance and harmony in my life that I had before I became principal?
Well, again, I'm about to drop another one line on you, Principal Kafele. Your network is your net worth. That's the only way you can do it. Who do pastors go to when they need prayer? Who do doctors go to when they need medical care? Who do therapists go to when they need counseling? They lean on each other. Yeah. And if you don't have a network outside of the building and inside the building, your assistant principals are key into carrying out the mission, the day-to-day missions that we have going forward. That is the key. That's the only way you can do it. The day of putting assistant principals in charge of books, buses, and discipline is over. You need to teach them all of the constructs that I laid out earlier in regards to that principalship. Your assistant principal should be ready day one when they sit in that chair. They shouldn't have to take the 6 months that it takes to learn the principalship. And I am glad to say, I got to brag. You don't brag on yourself, nobody. If you don't tell your story, somebody else will. Every last one of my assistant principals that have been under my purview over my career are either principals or at central office. I have 12 teachers. Virginia Bullock and Sharon Richardson are on the call right now. Both of them were teachers under me, and they are now assistant principals, and Sharon is actually the EC director in hers. So your network is your net worth. If you don't pass that torch behind you, then you'll kill yourself trying to do it all yourself. Distributive leadership is the answer, Principal Kafele, to your question. Distributive leadership. You cannot do it all by yourself.
Y'all hear that? Distributive leadership. Tapping into the human capital that's on your staff. But you can't tap into that human capital if you haven't forged relationships with it first, right? Because there's no incentive to want to be a part of that team. It's just my job in my classroom, and when it's 3 o'clock, I'm out of here, right? So that's a whole other discussion, man. Y'all dropping some stuff. Let me say something to the fam before I go to Principal Muhammad. If you sitting here right now listening to this discussion, I'm talking to somebody out there right now, and you are hoarding this thing for yourself, and you didn't tell somebody, like a text message, a retweet, a repost, a share, that the AP and New Principals Academy is on fire right now. Come on now, don't hoard that information. Let somebody else know in your network that we got it going. I'm gonna tell you something else, and I'm gonna go to Principal Muhammad. We got a long way to go, baby. I hope y'all got time. We got a lot of stuff to cover, man. You know, a lot of times I say about 2 o'clock, okay, we'll wrap it up. I can't wrap this one up, man. I got to get all this on video, right? So let somebody know we ain't leaving yet, right? The slam dunk contest ain't till 8 o'clock. The 3-point contest ain't till around 7. So you got time. Let somebody know we are here, right? Let me go back to this screen and get Principal Muhammad up here. Here we go. Here we go. You said motivating students through hip hop. And I know we talked about this. I'm going to give you a chance if there's anything else you want to say. I'm passionate about showing teachers to leverage hip hop music and culture to engage and inspire students, fostering a sense of, and it only gave me 200 characters. Let me give you the rest of this. A sense of inclusion and connection in the classroom. You know, Principal Muhammad, before you jump in here, I'm gonna go out on a limb on this one. If it's too much, then just leave it alone. Since we did talk about it, and I knew that because when I showed that video in the beginning, I said, man, I'm probably taking away everything from that bullet point. But let's go back to last week's halftime show, right?
Okay.
Now if you know if it ain't the place, then you let me know. We move on. How might that show with young brother Kendrick Lamar tie into what this particular bullet point says?
That's a great question.
That's assuming that you saw it.
Yeah, I did see it. I mean, I think, right, you're talking about one of the most popular sporting events, right, in America, if not the most popular sporting event in America. The halftime show, I think this halftime show, I think I read somewhere even this morning where it said it's the most watched halftime show ever, right?
Ever. Yeah.
Just the cultural importance of Kendrick Lamar and what has been happening in hip hop with him, and this whole Drake fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an opportunity. The message that he was able to send, the visual and musical message that he was able to put out in that performance, there's an opportunity there for teachers and principals and schools to connect with children, and connect with their students in ways that they might not have before.
Yeah.
Right? There was something that was taught in this performance.
Mm-hmm.
History was being put forth in this performance. This performance was social and political commentary, right? It was a reflection of an experience within this country. And so I think that a wise instructor would be able to take that and insert that into the classroom, and find some ways to connect with kids and allow them there's a powerful opportunity here to allow them some voice, to allow them to be heard and to be seen. Like he represents them in many ways.
Yeah.
And I think what you have, and the reason I say this is because a lot of times what happens in schools, Principal Kafele, is you have teachers and leaders who lead and teach in their way. They lead and teach in ways that make them comfortable rather than leading and teaching in ways that really and truly connect with students and identify with them. And so we have to connect with them, man. Like we have to lean into their interests and their likes as much as we may not like it, right? My students, when I was still teaching history, my students loved wrestling. I hated wrestling. I said, why y'all love that fake stuff, right? But they loved it. Yeah. And so I had to begin to find ways to incorporate that into history lessons to get them to understand. And I did that, and they did. So that performance is an opportunity, I think, for educators to be able to connect with kids if they use it the right way.
If they use it the right way. You know, my thought when I saw it was a normal thought, because I had my principal's hat on, which I'm typically wearing. See, for me, when there were big events going on, whether it be something like that, a performance, or just things happening in the world, then my school understood, you know, this is the culture that I created relative to the principal, that I'm going to bring the entire building to the gymnasium, right? And that's everybody, you know, like if I got on the horn and said, everybody report to the gym after something big happened in the world, no one would be surprised, right? They would probably be a little disappointed I didn't give them forewarning, but I would have put that in the Sunday. I would have put it in an email that Sunday night. So we'd be in the gym Monday morning having a school-wide discussion, dissecting what that performance was all about. That's the way I live. Like if there was an incident in the world, a police shooting, whatever it was, then the culture of the building, all right, we know he's gonna bring us to the gym. We're gonna have a conversation about this. It's cool. So we had that kind of culture. So with me, it would have been twofold. I would have had that school-wide discussion, but I would have had the same discussion with staff in a staff meeting and probably shown the video, right? So that we can dissect that video just to elevate the consciousness of my staff, right? Because I got staff that are in the know, that know more than I do relative to hip hop, but then you got others that have no clue. So, and then you got everybody in between. So now we'll have that discussion in a staff meeting and break down the lyrics. Just like we'll take a song that's profanity laced. I won't drop artists, but vulgar in terms of content, and we'll play that unedited in a staff meeting because I want the staff to understand what it is that the youngsters are listening to, right? So we'll listen. So we'll try to get past the profanity and hear whatever point they're trying to make, even if it's detrimental, right? I still want them. Well, this is what, while you're letting them listen to the music in the classroom, this is probably what they're listening to, or something within that same genre, you know. So that's important. But going back to yourself now, anything else that you wanted to add relative to the talking point?
To that particular talking point?
Yeah. Because I'm gonna give you the other ones.
No, not to that one. No, I think I'm good.
So we good. Let's go. Where we at? Number 3, number 4. Back up to Principal Clark. You said I'm passionate about educator resilience and self-care. I know you talked about that, but is anything to add to it?
Well, I guess we talked a little bit about the resilience piece, but I guess I would add that thinking about our own resilience as educators, and again, particularly as Black women, right? And so, what do we do to keep ourselves resilient, to manage failure or disappointment, and to keep ourselves well? There have been so many news reports about Black women who have either passed away or had some kind of tragedy while they were, in the seat, in the principal seat, in the university president's seat, and those are really heartbreaking stories. And so, how do we really look at what it is that we are being asked to do? What are we asking ourselves to do? Right? And how do we keep ourselves healthy and well and happy in the process? And I saw someone said you can't pour from an empty cup. Absolutely. Like, we have to pour into ourselves, because sometimes we don't have others pouring into us, right? And we have to be, but we also have to be willing to be poured into as well, right? So because sometimes it's like, oh, I can do it. I got this, and it's okay to actually say, I don't got this for a moment, right? And allow somebody to really be there for you in any kind of way, whether it's just to listen, whether it is, to literally hold your hand, walk you through something. But in that, and also think about this thing about self-care, and I have not mastered self-care in any way, shape, or form, but it is a work in progress, and I'm very proud of the progress that I am making, and just being able to say no to certain things, being able to set some boundaries around certain things. As I think Principal Wallace mentioned, working all these hours, we're in 80-hour weeks and stuff. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I can still be effective working within the confines of the workday, and maybe I got to do a few things on the weekend or at some point. But there's some days, like Saturdays, where I don't do schoolwork. I just don't. I had to stop because I literally was working 7 days a week. And my family deserved time with me that was unedited time for them. And I deserve that time as well. So constantly being able to say that, and making moves to saying, hey, I'm going to do this for me right now. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do nothing. I started putting a weekend of the month where it says do nothing.
Wow.
And that's exactly what I intend to do. And if nothing means that I am flat out in the bed reading the book, that's it. If it means sitting on the couch binge watching TV, if it means absolutely doing nothing, going nowhere, no Zoom, like when I say nothing, I really mean as much of nothing as possible. My daughter actually loves that new part of our lives. She's like, we're not doing nothing, we're not going anywhere, not doing. She gets really excited about that. So we have to take care of ourselves, because we can't do this work if we don't, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we are okay.
You know, two things. Number one, I should have said to you all when we were off camera, I forgot. You feel free to jump in on each other's comments, right? That's encouraged. But number two, I got to go to something you just said, Principal Clark. I guess I'm just reiterating something I said before. You got that young first year principal on here right now, right? I'm sure there's somebody first year, second year, or AP this aspiring to become first year principal, but that first year one that just feels so overwhelmed right now, right? Because I don't know anything about tapping into people. I don't know anything about empowering others. I don't know anything about finding tapping into the human capital in the building and so forth. I don't know anything about distributive leadership yet. I'm just trying to stay afloat here, right? But then I'm listening to this. I'm this person that's listening to you, but I'm listening to Principal Clark. And I agree with everything she's saying. This is this person. I know you're out there somewhere, fam. And you said, like, shut it down? Like, no? Like nothing for a whole day? I'm that person. This is not Kafele now. I can't relate to that. Because I go 7 days. Right? I'm putting in at least 5 hours on Saturday and at least 5 hours on Sunday. I can't even go to church. This person, this person exists, right? I can't go to church. I can't watch the football games. I can't watch the basketball game or if I do, I can't give it my full attention because I got all this paperwork in front of me. And you saying shut it down? Won't that accumulate? And now I got double tomorrow, triple tomorrow. Holla. What do you say to that person? Because I know that person's on here.
Well, I was that person.
So was I, and I'm sure the other two. I'm sure the two others were too.
Yeah, I was that person, and the work is always going to be there. We're going to get the work done because we're passionate about the work, and so, but if we're not taking care of
Clark, I don't mean. I'm doing my Fat Joe, interrupting you in the middle of your sentence. Listen. You know what that is, Principal Muhammad, because that's what he used to do when he had that Instagram show. He just cut you right off. Listen. Trinika O'Quinn Barnett, my first month as principal. She in the first month right now, mid-year. I'm that person right now who is having a hard time shutting it down. Now we can put a face and put a name to it. Talk to Trinika.
All right. Okay, so Trinika, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Thank you for jumping into a school year as a principal in February. Like, all praises to you. Number one. Number two, small steps, baby steps. If it's a half an hour where you just take a moment to just breathe, have a cup of tea, and maybe the next weekend you can take 45 minutes. Maybe you know what I mean? So you have to start to build that up very, very slowly in a way that works for you. There's no prescription to it, right? But I think that one of the things that I realize is that when my body will tell me when I need to shut it down. And I don't want that, right? You got to be able to do that beforehand. You got to be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to this thing. You have to put in systems in place and give yourself some moments to say, I am going to just read for 15 minutes. That's it. I'm going to play this game with my daughter for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour, right? Because they deserve that as much as your students and your staff deserve that as well. And I will also say that building relationships with the folks that are in your building, they want to know who you are outside of your work. They don't have to know everything, but knowing that you went to your kid's soccer game on the weekend, that you traveled to see your family in another state for the weekend, that you had a great date night with your significant other. Like, folks want to hear those kinds of things because then they can humanize you even more. And they realize, like, hey, like this is a whole entire person here that's leading. So I can relate to them in a way that makes sense for me. So you're doing that stuff for you, but you're also doing that stuff for you professionally as well. So it has multiple benefits.
I love it. And by the way, Tranika, I hope you were on and you got that website with the Black Women's Education Leaders,
Yes.
leadership.com. Somebody put that back up on the screen for us, that website, so that she can get in touch.
Yes.
Right?
Tranika, please come on through. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
I would just say, listen, it's important when you're just starting off. I think it's important to just give yourself some grace, allow yourself some room to make mistakes, allow yourself some room to go slow. I think sometimes when we first get in the principal chair, we think we got to do it all now and we need to get it all right because I don't want to lose my job. I just got this. But it was your sense of purpose that got you that job in the first place, right? And so that's what you need to maintain, your sense of purpose and your passion. And don't overwhelm yourself with so many things feeling like they all have to be done right now. Just like Principal Clark said, that just spread that stuff out over time where you can, right? Find someone who you can delegate some stuff to. Do that. Even if it's one small task, then that's one less thing that you have to worry about, one less thing that you have to focus on. But grace is important. You won't get it all right. And so you have to walk into it. I think you got to walk into the job knowing that I'm not going to get this all right. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be late on some things, all of that. And live comfortably in knowing that. And you'll do yourself well emotionally and psychologically and physically. Because when you push too hard, like Sister Clark said, when you push too hard, your body will tell you that you need to shut it down. And that's a place that you don't want to get to.
That's right. That's right.
Then I'll just say, just remember, if you carry so many people right now in your job, but if your ship goes down, you can't carry anybody. Right. Either you're going to do it, either you're going to shut it down, or your doctor in a couple of years is going to tell you to shut it down. And I'm talking from experience. And what's bad is if your superintendent called you today and told you to go to a 3-day conference, or if they called you and told you to come to a principal meeting, we jump right up and we go and run. That same paperwork that you said is going to build up on your desk is going to be built up for somebody else. So why can't you do it for yourself? I mean, as a principal for 23 years, I had high blood pressure issues, cholesterol issues that had me on all this medicine. The minute I went to the State Department, the minute I went to 2 months later, it had all subsided. I'm not on any medicine today. I'm not on anything moving forward. And a colleague of mine, actually, because she was so consumed with the school and her husband was saying, look, we need more family time, but she had a responsibility. She wound up getting divorced. So she asked to be moved to another school. They moved her to another school, and they had another principal in that school within 2 days. That's how fast it happens. When you go, it's going to be your replacement's going to be 2 days later. So why you ruined the whole marriage you lost behind the job that replaced you in 2 days? Right. You always put yourself first. If you go down, you can't carry nobody. Then all your stakeholders are hurt because you're not there.
That's it. Good stuff. I appreciate that, man. That's why I feel so blessed to have this platform, because you don't know who's out there in the wilderness that's going through, the same things that you and I went through. And we have an opportunity to talk to them. And now she can join Principal Clark and, everything. So
right.
Let's stay with you, Tabari. And then once we finish this one, we got 3 more, and then we'll be done, y'all. So y'all hang in there with us. You said principal preparation and support. Now, they left a package out on my stoop. Let me go get it. So you start. I'll hear you because the speaker's on, and I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. When it comes to principal support, and y'all, we call that pipeline development. Okay. We call that pipeline development. What's happening, as I told you before, with, what colleges do, sometimes you have 6 classes, sometimes you have 17. All right. So there's varying capacity levels of incoming administrators into the pipeline. what we found out, we have something, and I know Principal Muhammad knows exactly where I'm about to go with this. We had to create at the State Department what's called the Assistant Principal Accelerator, where we take 50 assistant principals from around the state that are currently being discussed in the succession pipeline of districts, and we pull them in $5,000 a person. DPI is paying to make sure that we fortify the readiness of all assistant principals so when they get in that chair. And what we found out, we do a survey with them when they first get there, and we find out a lot of these principals ain't never talked about the budget. They're vague in IEP law. I mean, it was like 20 different constructs that we had to go and write a curriculum to make sure that we move them from good to great and that they'll be prepared for that principalship when they get it. Then by the state board, state board asks us we used to provide 1 year of mentorship. The advisors in that cohort that teaches them after they're finished with that 1 year of curriculum and pedagogy, when they're in their first years of principalship, we provide a coach to go out with them. The hardest year of a principal is the first year because you're trying to learn everything. So instead of calling your superintendent or calling somebody at district office where you might see it in your evaluation later, you call us and we coach you. We never tell your superintendent what's going on. We coach you to get you right and to make sure we answer all your questions. And we give you that coach for 2 years before we put you into the Distinguished Leadership Program, where you learn the top echelon of leadership. But again, it's a need that we had to, we're how do you take down an elephant? You bite piece by piece, right? Bite by bite. That's how you do it. So now we're chopping this tree down to make sure that all of our administrators are effective. I don't know if y'all know the state board law, but they say they want an effective teacher. I mean, they want a qualified or certified teacher in every classroom. But when it comes to the principal, that word changes. It is, we want a highly effective principal in every school. And that's what the Department of Public Instruction with NC Papa joining together that partnership. That's why we created the Assistant Principal Accelerator Program to make sure we meet that need in North Carolina.
Nice.
Good stuff. Anybody want to weigh in? Yeah, that preparation, and we talked about it before, is so important. And that generic preparation, I think about this like often. I was in this grad school program, and you got all these folks in the same cohort, and we're not going to the same places. We're all going to different places, and that generic approach to preparing us for principal leadership, although we were all going to probably become APs. I don't know that it was effective for everybody because of that word that showed up in your bios, equity, right? It just wasn't an equitable opportunity to be prepared for the environment that we were going to go in. And my environment has always been urban, it's always been Black, and it's always been low socioeconomic, and all the trappings of that. But what I was prepared for, it didn't speak to that. I had to figure that out on my own. The good thing is I was a product of the same city, so I knew the city very well, because I was born and raised there. But certainly leadership didn't prepare me to be effective in that environment. It prepared me for some generic environment that doesn't exist. Right?
Can I add a little something?
Absolutely.
So I loved hearing about that program, and that's so amazing. The other side of that, however, I would say is making sure that principals who are currently seated in the principalship know and desire to develop assistant principals to become principals. Okay, because when you've got someone who does not have that desire, that can be very, very damaging for an assistant principal who does aspire to become a principal. Unfortunately, I had that situation multiple times, almost to the point where I was like, okay, so if I don't get this principal job, I'm just going to go figure out how to do retail. That was a scary thought because I do not like working. I couldn't even think about working in a store. So just to make sure that principals understand how to develop those who are working with them. And I don't want to say under, because the principalship should be like this. This is where it should be. But somebody who says, I see you and I want to help you develop what's in you to be able to do this job, right? To know, so to not hide these things and say, oh, well, no, you don't need to worry about the budget because, I have to do that. Or, you just make sure that, that the discipline is taken care of. And just, so that kind of stuff that you have to want to have to help someone else to grow. So principals, I think, sometimes may need those skills in order to be effective supports for assistant principals and others who want to lead.
What you
and the main
no, you got
it. Right on point. And the main thing that they got to have to do that is humility.
Right.
Because you can't groom anybody to become an effective principal, essentially take your job, right? If you're not humble, if you're not willing to let go of the ego. You got to learn how to lead without the ego and allow people's bright ideas and what they know and their questions and their critiques and their feedback to come to the table.
Right.
So when you're meeting with, or if a principal meets with their assistant principals, they're having leadership team meetings, ask them, what do you all think about this? Here's the idea that I'm having. What are your thoughts about this? Tell me what I'm not seeing. What am I missing here? It has to be that sort of thing. You got to give them some inroads to the decision-making process, allow them to make some decisions so that they feel like they have value. Because if they feel like they can't get anywhere with you, then they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And so developing them and preparing them to become a principal, first of all, you have to model it. Like you have to be what you want them to be. And so you got to be instrumental, man. Like it's the conductor, the orchestra conductor doesn't play all the instruments. He can't play all the instruments. Your job as a principal is like the orchestra conductor. Your job is to get all of the instruments to come together and make a beautiful sound. But you don't got to play all the instruments. Let them play. I tell my team that it's like Wu-Tang. I might be RZA today. You might be Method Man tomorrow, though. We function like Wu-Tang. I don't got to get all the shine. I want everybody on this team to shine. I want everybody on this team to get some credit because that's how you get developed. I will, though, take all the blame. I'll take all the blame. You're gonna share this credit, right? So you can't hoard, everything and try to keep things from your APs if you're expecting them to become effective principals. I run a very small charter school in North Carolina, and we have some strong people on our team, some nice teachers who I see as emerging leaders. And I have one AP, and she's retiring at the end of this year. Now, where I'm gonna get an AP from? Well, what did I decide to do? I set up and created an Emerging Leaders Academy and had teachers in the building who I see as great potential leaders to apply to become a part of this academy. And I'm going to teach them everything that you would probably need to know to be a great AP, so that you can step into this role next year for me. Whether we have one or two assistant principals. This is distributed leadership, like Tabari said.
One thing too I want to say is that folks who are in the assistant principal role currently, or if you're an aspiring leader, recognize that if you are not in a situation where that leader is willing to develop you and is giving you those opportunities, it's not always you. It's sometimes it is that leader, it's their insecurities. Sometimes it's their, looking at what you have done, seeing the success that you have had and being like, they don't know what to do with that. Right. So because it can be perceived as a threat to their own leadership. Right. So recognize that maybe that is not the space that you need to lead in. That does not mean that you don't need to be a leader.
And you know where that comes from, Principal Clark? Principal Kafele and Tabari, that comes from a principal having the wrong perception of what a principal is supposed to be. going with this old mindset that a principal got to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, right.
You
And
do
that's
not have to be the smartest person in the room, and you cannot be. My belief, principal may need to be the wisest person in the room, but not the smartest. Surround yourself with smart people. Allow them to tell you what you should do.
Yes.
Principal
Yes.
Muhammad, here's what I think we should do on this matter. Well, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Okay, now my job is to take what you've told me, synthesize it, and make the best decision that I think is best to move the organization forward. That's the role of a principal. Get them smart people around you on your team and let them tell you what to do, and stop trying to tell them what to do.
I love it.
And Principal Muhammad, you just said it. Your network is your net worth. Surround yourself with those people and rely on them to go do it. But I'll say this, y'all. Sometimes APs that's listening, sometimes you can learn what not to do.
There you go.
More than you can learn what to do.
All day.
That's right.
Now, sometimes you can, a lot of times people say, well, that's how I was taught, so that's what I'm going to do to you. No. Just like you, I mean, sometimes you can learn that. And you actually took my Teacher Leadership Academy part, there, Muhammad. So I'm gonna pivot to anybody that's from the state that's on the call right now. What we need to do is be intentional. Not all principals know what to share. Heck, not all principals know what to do. Right. So at the State Department right now, this is what happened when you have a principal that you pluck from the school and put him at the State Department and let him run them up to make sure you fortify the readiness of schools. Right now in North Carolina, Dr. Derek Jordan and the task force is heading up. We're working on the North Carolina principal portfolio, which is by law we have to do so we can standardize the readiness of all principals. But the second coming of that is a list of recommendations for internships and new principals for assistant principals to make sure it's a checklist. So you go right down, whether it's curriculum, whether it's budget, whether it's IEP law, whether it's, you go right down, whereas now you have no excuses. You cannot hide. Okay, you have to go down and show these principals those tenets within their first 2 years. Those assistant principals, their tenets, and interns, there's tenets as you go down. North Carolina is trying to align all these processes so when we turn them out in the schools, we have a baseline of readiness and competency of each individual within our human capital pool. So anybody in the State Department, y'all listen, we're gonna put our information up in a minute. If you want to connect, you just let me know, because North Carolina's doing big things when it comes to the readiness and the prep of principal.
Tell you what, that was a good segue for you all to put your information up, because we going way over today, so I don't want to lose anybody. The numbers are we got a few thousand that have been through here today. So let me say this to you, but let me just make this one point on to cap that conversation. The principle, the preparation. Let me just put it back up what you had on your talking point. Principal preparation and support. To the fam out there, keep in mind that to train anybody, in this case, to train an assistant principal, training is a skill. It's not just opening up your mouth talking, right? But it's a skill, and the training for assistant principal A right here versus the training for assistant principal B over here, or even C over here, it may look different for each of them, because they may be so very much different from one another, right? So the question is, and this is the first time I'm holding up my mirror the whole session. I'm surprised I waited so long. As you hold up your mirror, you got to ask yourself, what is my level of competence as a trainer of my assistant principal? What is my level of competence as a professional developer overall, right? As opposed to issuing mandates to a staff, right? What is my proficiency level as one who trains my staff, trains my AP, is professional developer for my staff, or even trainer of my parents, right? So that your parents go home having better understanding of their role as parent educators, as opposed to just doing what seems instinctively the right thing to do, right? So that's a skill set that maybe some of us have to develop. I'm a speaker, I'm a consultant, but on the consultant side, I had to learn how to train a staff of people who don't see the world the way I see it. right? I'm not always in the urban East Orange, Newark, New Jersey environment. I'm in environments that I've never been to. Like when I go to Montana, when I go to North Dakota, when I go to Utah, when I go to those particular states, that's not home. So do I know how to talk to folks who live in a world that's very different from mine to the extent that they're going to hear me? That's a skill set. And you got to ask yourself, do I possess those skills? And then the last thing, man, Principal Muhammad, that was brilliant how the analogy you drew with Wu-Tang. Because you talk, for those of you that don't know hip hop, that may, you'd have to do the research. But we're talking about a large group of brothers where no two of them are alike. Yeah, you listen to them rap. ODB and Method Man is like wow, like miles apart, right? So these brothers who are nothing alike from one another, but a legendary group who's going back on tour. Right, so withstand the test of time, despite their extreme diversity within them, right, in terms of their style. So that was a great example that you gave. I love that. Let me go to this next. No, I want you guys to give your contact information. And I'll do that copy and paste out of that private chat too. But talk to the folks, Principal Clark. How do they get in touch with you? Maybe they want to bring you in, even though you're a full-time principal. We figure out ways to get out and training and get back to school. Maybe they want to bring you in to talk to staff. Maybe you want to invite you to keynote a conference. Whatever it is, more information on your books, your organization. How to get in touch with you.
So my email is Trelane Clark 0314 @gmail.com. My personal website is TreyClarkLeads.com. And LinkedIn is also a great place to get me, Trelane-Clark.
Sounds good. I'm trying to post this for you too.
I'm putting it in the chat too.
Yeah, this was the other link in terms of getting the book Thrive. ThriveEdConsulting.square.site. So if you want to pick up the book, Knowledge and Wonder, subtitle Perspectives from the Front Lines of Teaching and Leadership, and you can that's the link, right? That's the website. So don't go to Amazon. Go to Thrive. Go to ThriveEdConsulting.square.site. Right,
and you'll get an autographed copy if you go.
Yes, I don't have the autograph, right? So, yeah, I gotta send it to you and get it. Right,
you got that.
Yeah, so there you go. Let me go to Principal Wallace. How do they get in touch with you or bring you out to speak and all that good stuff?
Okay, I'm gonna need you to cut and paste too. I can't get on the live site, but I've got all three of them for you.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll verbalize it right now while you're cutting and pasting. And thank you for that, Principal Kafele.
Yes,
but it's going to be tawallacegroup.com. And that's for any keynotes, any professional developments. I am a truest trainer. I provide a half-day training to give you the overview of the 4 days. We took 1 hour out of each day with the truest, and trust me, you will leave there with some serious strategies. It's proven. Anything inspirational, anything leadership, anything coaching, all thing education. You can go to that, and then we can rearrange, and I'll be headed to a theater near you. Other than that, my email is Tabari Wall. That's with 1 L at gmail.com. And then any of the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snap, all that is simply Tabari Wallace. I made it easy for you. I'm not going to do all those surnames and all that. It's Tabari Wallace. You put Tabari Wallace in, you'll find me, buddy. There it is right there.
I'm gonna put one more up here. And give me a second here. Here we go. And y'all, we're not finished yet. We almost finished. So don't leave us yet. I just want to make sure that while we got all like in real time, we got 737 people in real time on the 4 platforms. And then as far as the people who've been going in and out, it's a few thousand. So I want to make sure that we get that out here. So here's the other one. Here we go. There we go. Right. Tabari Wall. 1 L at Gmail. Get in touch with him, and then go to YouTube. You see him. You see he got a lot of keynotes on there, right? So you'll see him in action, right? Just go to YouTube, put his name in there, and you'll see him, right? Let's go to Principal Muhammad. Same thing.
Man, my email is principalmuhammad1@gmail.com, or they can go to my website, two different websites. One, I have a educational consulting and professional development company called Leaderacy. So that website is www.consultleaderacy.com, or they can go to www.principal-muhammad.com. And I can be contacted through any of those. Coming up, I will be at the Impacting Student Learning Conference at Augusta University. I think that's March 29th. I'll be presenting there. I'll be at the North Carolina Middle Level Educators Conference in Charlotte.
See you there.
Yeah, I'll be presenting there, man. So I'll see you there. And then I'll also be back at the Bond Academy at Bowie State University in April. I'll be presenting there as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Y'all go to that one, and then everything else you need from there is there. So consulting, leaderacy.com, right? Because there's so much on there. I think I got everybody. We got like, let me go around one more time. I think I got to do number 6 with Muhammad. So give us like 20 minutes, y'all. Y'all stay here. Y'all stay here and get this free PD, right? So right here you said developing effective school leaders. I'm dedicated to mentoring and developing assistant principals into impactful and skilled school leaders. Anything else you wanted to say with that?
Nah, man. I mean, we've said a lot on it. I just think it's important to, like I said, to give them a fair opportunity, man, and not lead with the ego. Yeah, get rid of the ego. If you are a school leader, please get rid of the ego, so that you don't do a disservice to these upcoming assistant principals. And if you are an assistant principal and you're working with a leader, like Tabari said, you may be under a leader where you are learning what not to do. But either way, you're learning. So pay attention, right? So pay attention. I've been in both situations. I've had some good school leaders that I worked on, and then I've had some that were not so good. And I probably have some who viewed me in both ways, maybe. But I've always strived to be, a school leader that gave my assistant principals opportunities. And so I just go back to, it's not your job to be the smartest person in the room. Just give them an opportunity to contribute.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We got one more rotation, and then we're done. So am I going in the right order? I'm so out of it now. Let me see. We're at number 7. We did that. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Okay. Principal Clark said all students deserve educators who hold themselves to high expectations, who love and care for them, and who maintain an equity lens in whatever role they serve. Is there anything else to say about that? I know we've gone into a lot, but if there's anything, then the floor is yours.
I mean, I just think that we have to make sure that we are doing the best that we can, and that we're always the best models. But that doesn't mean being perfect. Yeah. And I've had to talk to myself a lot about that. But when students see that we can make mistakes and bounce back and be resilient and say, okay, I learned from that, from that mistake, that's real powerful learning. That's real life examples. And so I just think it's important for us as educators to always be conscious of that, and not trying to, smooth over the rough patches, because that does not give students a realistic view of what they're walking into when they're walking through the world. And as educators, I just feel like if you don't love children, I beg of you to try to find another profession.
Principal Clark, as I said a couple of hours ago, equity showed up in your bio a couple of times, and now here it is in one of your talking points. You are not only a principal, but you are an author and you are a presenter. In fact, that conference that Principal Muhammad and I will be at in Charlotte soon, I certainly want to see you there next year. So I will give you that information.
Okay.
So yeah, now we'll get that to you so you can make that happen. It's a very good conference. But here's the thing. So obviously you're very passionate about equity, as I think the world knows I am. I have found other ways to talk equity without using the language.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had to, or I will not survive this business.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you, let me give you further foundation. In addition to conferences shutting down, because they were either equity themed or black themed, and particularly in North Carolina, by the way, right? Such as the National Alliance of Blacks, the North Carolina Alliance of Black School Educators Conference. I was going to keynote that. That's gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then another one, at North Carolina A&T, that's gone. So here's the thing. Where I'm pointing is where I hold my Zoom meetings with clients. That's my living room seat. And I've had at least 2 this week say to me, Kafele, you can't. Now this was not provoked by me. This is them knowing my work. You can't come in here talking equity, right? So I'm like, okay, because I know that I will, but they won't hear the word. And I know that they'll be very pleased with what I had to say because they don't understand that it's not a bad word. It's not a bad thing. It's, like there's a zillion definitions for it. I got my own, which I wrote a book around the equity and social justice 50, where I say equity, to simplify the definition, meeting children where they are, ... as they are, period. Where's the political connotation? I'll say to audiences all the time, right? Of course, there are other ways people define it because it's pretty much an undefined, it is no universally defined definition for equity, right? So therefore it's open to all this interpretation, but I just took it, I use it like mathematics. I stripped it to its lowest common denominator, meeting the children where they are as they are. So I'm saying all that to say this to you. How can you be true? This is for you, Dr. Clark. Principal Clark, probably not coming up. How do you remain true to your passion of equity when equity is under assault?
Well, I will say that for me, and I love your definition of equity. I often have used the definition providing students with access to all the resources, human and otherwise, that they need to become who they are destined to become.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that really allows it to be so open, but also very focused, right? Because we need to look at the students. What are the students telling us that they need? How are they communicating to us what they need, whether it is through their behavior, whether it is through their academic performance, whether it is through, what they may need social emotionally. As long as we are doing our best to give them, to meet them at that point of need with the resources that we have available, then we are doing equity. We are being equitable, right?
Like
that moment when we move away from that and when we're saying, oh, well, these folks can get this and those folks can get that, or we're confusing equality with equity, which I still have found teachers that still do that.
yeah.
Everything is not always equal. That child does not necessarily need that thing right now, but that one over there does. But you can still give them both what they need in that moment. So I think there's lots of different ways that you can that you can talk about equity and be about equity and live equity, to have an equity lens on everything that you do. How you show up in a meeting. Right. We're in the process of admissions at the school that I'm at right now. So it's like that equity lens cannot and will not leave me, because I'm looking at, well, if we talked about one student in this way, when we talk about the next one, I'm thinking about a student that we talked about 3 students before and trying to make sure that we are doing that in a way that is equitable to both students, right? So I think once it's in you, you can't really help it. It's just going to ooze out of you. And so, if you feel like equity is a bad word, I'm sorry for you. I feel sad for you. But I feel like the way that our world can function the best is when people have what they need to do what they want and need to do in life.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff. Let me keep moving because in the interest of time, we got two more, y'all. Principal Wallace, you said stakeholder engagement and academic success. I know you talked about that one as well. Anything else you wanted to add to it?
Yeah, that was that discretionary effort diatribe that I went on earlier. Once people are fully engaged, then you don't have a problem. If they love you and they, if we're all putting a table together, and anybody that put a bite together for Christmas for your children, you'll know that if you don't screw those bolts in good, your child gonna be riding down the street, the wheel gonna come off, and you got a problem. All right, and that's people being compliance based. Okay. But if you're inspired by your leader and you're leading from the front, and you're giving them all the resources, those teachers will actually sit there and screw until they can't screw no more to get that table together or to get that bicycle together, that it will never fall apart. Yeah. So that's what we do with regards to high expectations in regards to academic success. And y'all were talking about equity. I try to, when I set high expectation with our staff, and what we're trying to teach the APs now is don't allow people to say all. You should use each and every when you're dealing with academic success of children. You can hide in all.
That's right.
You can come up with excuses in all. Well, I taught all my kids. Well, why did 40% of them fail? Oh, well, I taught them it was up to them to get the curriculum. But if you require them to say each and every, you should have a plan for each and every. And then all these critics about equity, you can go ahead and turn a blind ear to, because that's the teacher developing a plan for that child. That's not taken away from one and given to another. The teacher developed a plan to make sure each and every one of their students, black, white, red, or indifferent, will be successful at the end of the year come Judgment Day.
That's right.
That's what it's supposed to be. That all conversation, this can happen, right? He becomes obscure. We don't even see him. Right. That's each is my word. And I say it all the time. Each. Forget about all. That's I like how you added that each and every, as opposed to all. Good stuff. We go last but not least. Principal Muhammad, and I know we went all through this. Transforming urban schools. I'm committed to leading schools through turnaround stages with a particular focus on revitalizing urban schools and driving sustainable improvement. Anything you want to add to that?
Listen. we just have to do the job of making sure that our students are getting access to the quality education that they deserve at every stop, no matter where they are, right? And so if there are schools that are underperforming, not performing up to standard, then we got to put the right people in place for the sake of the children. And I think there's so many schools where politics are coming into play and people's relationships with people are coming into play. And ego is coming into play, right? I led a turnaround effort at a school once, and I was very clear on what I thought we needed at this school to continue to get this school in the direction that it needed to go. This school had been a failing school for 8 years.
Wow.
Since the school had been founded, it had been a failing school. I had principaled a school not even 2 or 3 miles from this school with the same demographic, and we had a lot of success with that school. And so I'm telling the leaders above me of this school, listen, this is what we need to do. Here's what I need. And we couldn't get anywhere with them, right? And so I made a statement to them. I said, well, we can't posit ourselves as a stop on the Underground Railroad yet function like a plantation. You can't do that.
Yeah.
For the sake of these children, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And so we just couldn't see, right, eye to eye on how we needed to move forward, because I'm very direct. And I'm gonna say what needs to be said for the sake of these children and these families. And we don't have time to tiptoe and do all of that, man. What are y'all gonna do to make sure that this school, meets standard? And so whatever the obstacles are, I think out there, if we're talking about traditional public schools or charter schools, we need to remove those obstacles so that these schools can turn around. And I think that starts with having leaders who are passionate about the work itself, leaders who understand who they are, who their leadership identity is, and leaders who are committed to fulfilling the promises that have been set out by the school. If you say your child is going to come to this school and get a high quality education, we're going to deliver on that promise, then we need to make sure that we deliver on that promise. And if the obstacles that are standing in the way are the principal or its teachers or it's people above the principal, whoever is responsible needs to get rid of those people and put people in there who are going to get the job done. And so I'm extremely passionate about that, because I don't want to see children hurt by an institution that is designed to heal them and to give them something of value that they can go out into society and use to better themselves and their families. So we just got to find the answer, man. We got to find the answer and turn around some of these schools that are doing a disservice to our children.
Love it. I love everything about this session. This is great stuff. But we got one more thing. We got them rapid fire questions to go. They're called the BAM Impact questions. And I got 21 altogether. I asked, we go 7, 7, 7, but they're one sentence or even one word, if you could do it that way. And if you feel yourself adding a comma, then it's too long. These are right. So let's go with Principal Clark for the first 7. Here we go. Is education on the right path for underserved children?
No.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, Brown, and other underserved students?
Yes, with a lot of work.
Does Principal Trelane Clark's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Most definitely.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Absolutely the same.
Why do you continue to do this work?
Because my daughter deserves it.
What fires you up particularly within the work that you do?
Progress and celebration, seeing progress.
And what do you dislike about the work you do?
Bureaucracy.
Principal Wallace, what has been your greatest victory in your work thus far?
The success of children.
What was your greatest mistake in the work you do thus far?
I think leaving West Craven High School too soon to go to the State Department.
What has been your greatest challenge in your work thus far?
Non-believers, a fixed mindset.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Oh, yes, sir.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Yes, sir.
Who inspires you in your work?
I would say my daughter.
And what book would you recommend for our fam out there this afternoon?
Good to Great.
There you go. Principal Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
What do you want to accomplish that you have not accomplished yet?
Leading a high school.
Are you satisfied with where you are professionally?
No.
Is there another gear to your leadership, or are you at peak performance now?
There's another gear.
What would you say to an AP out there who continues to face closed doors to the principalship?
Stay at it.
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership passion?
Get out of the game.
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership confidence?
Go pray.
If Principal Muhammad was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Resilience.
Going back to Principal Clark, if Principal Trelane Clark was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
I was going to say resilient, but
that's fine.
Yeah, resilient. Yeah.
Yeah. And if Principal Tabari Wallace was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Impact.
Love it. You know, as I'm sure you all have seen this platform before. If you've seen it this late in the game, the fam, we asked them to put their favorite emojis up, and they've been doing that for the past several minutes. And we say if today's session number 251 resonated with you, if you found it empowering, if you found it inspiring, if you found it informative, if you found that you can take pieces of it and incorporate it or infuse it into your leadership, then give us your favorite emojis, right? So those of you who are new to the platform, that's what that's all about. So give us your favorite emojis. And then, as I always do, I get my real life emoji, right? My baseball bat. Some of y'all, I know you like the newbies. I know you like, what's he wearing? I only wear Negro League jerseys on this platform during the all the months except the summer months. I might mix in some Mets or Yankees, but outside of that, all I wear is Negro League. So this is the Atlanta Black Crackers, right? Some of you probably thought it was just ABC, like school. No, the Atlanta Black Crackers. And by the way, y'all hit it out the park. Grand slam every time you came to bat. But let me take about 10 seconds to teach on this jersey. In the Negro Leagues, I mean, in the major leagues and in some of the semi-pro majors of the white teams, they would have whatever their team was. But in the Negro League, sometimes they would take the same name but add black to it, such as the New York Yankees here or the New York Black Yankees, right? So there was a team in Atlanta that was semi-pro called the Atlanta Crackers. It's a white team, the Atlanta Crackers, not in terms of race or anything, but I guess like cracking the ball out the park or whatever. So they took they took that same name and called it the Atlanta Black Crackers, right? So that's what ABC stands for. But I have another jersey that literally says Black Crackers. And I said, I can't wear that, man, because ain't nobody going to know what that means but me, unless they know the Negro Leagues. So I literally threw the shirt away. I threw it in the garbage. And I found this one. And that way, you know, ABC, they think of me with an educator. Oh, he probably rocking some school stuff. Yeah, you could think that, right? Until I start teaching, right? So Atlanta Black Crackers. Hey, y'all, give your contact information one more time. Trelane, Principal Clark, how do they reach you? And give your social media as well.
All right, social media at TRECLARK leads on IG, TikTok, and Facebook at Trelane Clark, LinkedIn Trelane Clark, email TrelaneClark0314@gmail.com, and the website is www.TreClarkLeads.com.
And if you didn't get all that, just Google Trelane, and you'll get it. Principal Wallace, same thing.
Okay, but before I start, I got to correct something, Principal Kafele.
Yeah.
You're still speaking for us at NAPSI in March, correct?
They canceled it.
Oh, they did cancel it?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't send it to me. I'm glad you told me, because I would have been down there waiting. So, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
No, equity was an issue.
Yeah.
I was all looking forward to getting down to Charlotte, man, and they said she sent me a letter. She said we can't do it. She was very disappointed.
Wow. Yeah, I was supposed to introduce you, so I'm gonna have to call old Dr. Gray after this. So
yeah, that's my contact person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be remember the TAWallacegroup.com for any events. It's Tabari Wall, that's 1L at gmail.com for the email, and then Tabari Wallace for any of the social media platforms. Just type in the whole name. So
love it. Principal Muhammad.
I'm on LinkedIn at Principal Muhammad. I'll be back on Instagram, same handle, Principal Muhammad. The website, consultleiteracy.com, or my other website, principal-muhammad.com. Email principalmuhammad1@gmail.com.
Good stuff. So y'all reach out. They're all speakers. They're all trainers, right? So they speak, they consult, they do it all. So reach out, and don't forget Principal Clark's book, right? Don't forget her book. Reach out to her so you can get that link again for the because it's buried now. But reach out so you can get that link, get that book, right? So listen, let me do my rundown. Y'all
hold on before you start, Principal Kafele. I got one big thing I forgot to say. Principal Muhammad's gonna kill me because I told him about it. He did it, and he's been born again. But to all the viewers from North Carolina that's logged on, if you are currently a principal, the Truist Institute has set aside $1.3 million in this endeavor for school leadership training. Okay. The truest training that we keep referring to cost about $10,000 a person. If you were Apple or whatever and wanted to go through it, you have to pay $10,000. But for North Carolina principals, if you email me, all right, on what we gave you, then the fee is waived. I have the proprietary link that you can go to that 4-day training in Greensboro, all incidentals taken care of, for absolutely free. If you try to sign up outside of my link, they're going to charge you $10,000. So I just wanted to say that before you got started, Principal Kafele.
Let me add, brother. I just did this training 2 weeks ago, and it is the most, it literally is the most impactful professional development that I've ever had. And so I would highly recommend it to any principal school leader.
Mine too. I echo those sentiments. I was reborn after I left there, and I was already principal of the year. I was supposed to be the best of the best. But when I went there, oh my goodness, that's why I'm where I'm at now, being able to coach principals, because again, that's best training I've ever been to.
Wow, that sounds good. That sounds like something I need to go back to. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Y'all, North Carolina folks out there, take advantage of it. And too bad for the folks that were from North Carolina that had to leave early and won't see this anymore, right? But let me go through my rundown. Y'all stay on until and we holler off camera when I'm done. Hey, to the fam out there, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here always. Week number 251. But now we get ready for 252. Let me tell you who my guests are. I brought in 3 superintendents, 3 male superintendents. You'll recall about 2 months ago, I had 3 women superintendents, 2 from the U.S. and 1 from Canada, who will be back because we got nowhere. We didn't finish, so we're gonna do it again soon. I don't know the date, but I know it's on the calendar. But this week we got 3 North Jersey superintendents. Dr. Gerald Fitzhugh. Jersey folks, you would probably know these names. The superintendent of Orange Public Schools. Erskine Glover, principal of Hillside Public Schools here in Jersey, and Rashawn Hassan, principal of Plainfield Public Schools in Plainfield, New Jersey. So they'll be with me, and we're gonna be talking principal leadership from the lens of the superintendent. So you don't want to miss that. Week 252. Put it on the calendar. Join me live next Saturday morning. But before you join me, join Sean Hurt at 10 o'clock Facebook Live. Every Saturday, 10 o'clock, followed by Create and Educate, Dr. Tammy Taylor and Dr. Sheikah Houston at 10:30, and then myself at 10:55 with my guests. And then on Sundays, PDP podcast, Josh Tovar, Dr. Madi Moreno, Sundays at 7 o'clock. Make sure, if you don't have it yet, get yourself a copy, right? There you go. There you go. What a blessing. What a blessing. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? And keep in mind, if you register for my Leadership Institute over the summer, July 15 and 16 in Raleigh, North Carolina, go to principalkafele.com, scroll down, and you'll see the link. You'll see the heading and then the link for the Leadership Institute. Register. You get a copy of this as my guest. And if you're one of the first 50, maybe we hit 50 already. I have a business partner that handles that, so I don't keep up with it. But you get the first 50, you get the principal 50, right? So, but everybody gets a copy of this. If you already got it, then you just give it to your AP or someone else that could benefit from it. I consider it the most important book I've ever written. Subscribe to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe there. And hit the notifications bell after you subscribe. That way you'll know when we're on. We have 23,200 subscribers right now. That's a blessing, right? But there's 100,000 principals in America, over 100,000, and probably over 300,000 APs. So we still got a long way to go. But I ain't gonna sneeze at the 23,200. That's a blessing that many people hit that subscribe button. And then make sure you visit principalkafele.com for all my other resources that you don't have to pay a dime for. Just stuff, whether it be my writings, whether it be videos, whatever it is, just check it out. And then lastly, your diet, your exercise, and your virus precautions. Make sure that you are taking care of you in the process. And by the way, if you missed the monologue this morning, if you've missed any of the monologues in February, I have another YouTube channel. It's called Principal Kafele Speaks. I don't talk about it much, but that's a channel that I kind of got all my, not all, but I got several keynotes and that type of thing on. Interviews, that type of thing. I just don't talk about it because I talk about the AP and New Principals Academy channel. But I put the monologues from the first week of February and the second week of February on the Principal Kafele Speaks channel. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So go, you know, you can go over there and check out the monologues you miss. But as far as today's monologue, where I made some book recommendations in the context of Black History Month, you can just watch whatever platform you're watching right now. Just rewind it in about 5 minutes, right? And it'll be right there. Other than that, y'all have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. 1, 2, 3. Bam. I see y'all next Saturday for week number 252. Y'all have a good week, and you have a strong week.
Thank you.